This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
You're wrong! If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity!
Russ Wakeland. Did you put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Raef, Hollywood Granger.
Now that's Jimmy Django right there.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listener.
The D6 generation. Like getting night vision glasses on safari, so you're not in the dark when big game hunting.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming out at the speed of a bewitched and mutated lieutenant of evil with horse legs grafted onto his pain-racked body.
Ooh. Today's
edition is brought to you by John H. and our other great patrons over at patreon.com/the D6 generation. Go visit patreon.com today. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host. Today our panelists are Russ Woolly Werewolf Wakeland and third chair emeritus Raef Gooey Gorgon Granger.
Yeah.
Let's begin. Issue number 1. Many of the most iconic images we have in our culture tied to the ancient and venerable types of monsters come from a single film production company working from 1923 to 1960. This company produced countless monster movies including The Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Wolfman, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and many others. Question. These monsters are now so identified with this production company, they are often referred to as belonging to that company. What is that production company? James Whale Wakeland.
Oh, I don't... Monsters, Inc.
Bela Lugosi Granger.
Boris Karloff, Inc.
Wrong! Universal Studios.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
These monsters are all, in fact, often called Universal monsters, not because everyone knows who they are, but because of the importance of Universal Studios in bringing them to the wider public's awareness.
Ooh.
Issue number 2. Variety is a quality similar to diversity or difference. Some feel having variety in life is much more exciting than doing the same routine day in, day out. When considering the depth and breadth of a gaming system, variety or replayability is often one of the most important features. After the elusive fun factor, gamers use to decide what games to play. Question. Among the many role-playing choices in the world, arguably the system that allows the most variety is Savage Worlds. What is the most popular setting specifically designed for the Savage Worlds? Ripper Russ.
I'm going to go with Pulp Heroes.
The Day After Ragnarok Raef.
Deadlands.
Oh, well, although a great deal of support does exist for Deadlands, and Pulp Heroes isn't a thing, I'm going to say Lowlife, where you role-play insects just so that I can say you're both wrong. Issue number 3. When an actor is in the middle of a performance, lost to everything else around him, he is said to be in character. Most performance theory declares that a small percentage of your awareness must be external on the practical happenings of the production going on around you. However, if you step out of character, acting in some way not in the nature of your role, this is called breaking character. It's bad in theater, happens in role-playing games all the time, and sometimes it happens on TV. Question. What is the name of Bill Hader's recurring SNL Weekend Update character whose NYC nightlife segments almost always resulted in both Bill Hader and Seth Meyers cracking up and breaking character? Jorge Rodriguez Russ.
Weekend Update.
Okay. Googie Renee Raef.
Breaking the Fourth Wall are us.
No, you're not even trying. Stefan, of course, whose new favorite nightclub is complete with Fozzies, Posies, and human drinking cozies. That's where a homeless man walks around with you all night long with his hands cupped around your hot beverage of choice. Issue number 4. A misfit is defined as a person whose behavior or attitude sets them apart from others in an uncomfortably conspicuous way. In real life, misfits can really be awkward, but in fiction or role-playing, mashing up things that don't really fit can be a lot of fun. Question. One of the strangest buddy film team-ups of all time, Double Team, from 1997, teamed up 2 perennial misfits in one movie. Kung Fu crazy man Jean-Claude Van Damme starred opposite what? Creepy cross-dressing dictator-loving athlete. Robin Williams Russ.
I got nothing.
Pat Morita Raef.
Bruce Jenner.
Oh, come on, guys. Seriously, you're not trying it tonight at all. Dennis Rodman.
All right, fair enough.
Cross-dressing.
Yeah,
dictator-loving. There is no one else on the planet that actually fits that description. Oh, forget it. That's it for now. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by GameSalute.com. Check out gaming news or find out what the new hotness is on Springboard. GameSalute.com.
And by Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
And by Conquistador Games, focusing on immersive and thematic games. More details at cqgames.com.
And by Cool Mini or Not, the vanguard of a new genre bringing minis and board games together. CoolMiniOrNot.com.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And Wargame Soldiers and Strategy Magazine, making historical wargaming less scary and more fun.
And by MiniatureMarket.com. Want an even better deal? Like them on Facebook and click the D6G logo. Hello!
Hello!
What's up?
Hey, and welcome to episode 143
What? 43. You add those together, it's 8.
of the D6 Generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
I'm Craig Gallant.
And I'm Raef Hollywood Granger.
Hey,
Welcome
Raef.
back, Ray.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Good to have you back on.
chair emeritus, everybody.
It is. So, Raef, we're excited to have you back on the show. And, you know, Rafe's one of the favorite segments Raef invented here on the D6 Generation is, of course, Rafe's Roundtable.
Yeah.
So we spun it around on him this time.
We did. We put him on the corner of the roundtable.
That's right.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
and that was not easy.
No, and we subjected him to some questions from us.
That's very true. And our listeners.
And then later, we timed to go back to Savage Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
You guys remember we reviewed Savage Worlds a while ago, Deadlands
We did.
specifically.
We did. Yeah.
And now we're going to talk about Savage Worlds in general, but in particular, what setting have you and Rafe played in recently?
We're actually going to talk about Accursed, which, of course, is from Melior Via and our friend of the show, Ross Watson.
Yeah, big Kickstarter success there, a new hotness.
Yep,
Yeah, so it's a setting for Savage Worlds involving, well, you have to listen later to find all about that.
That's true.
But first, you know, we haven't had a contest in a while, guys.
No, we have not.
We have not.
And you know what else we haven't done in a while?
What's that?
Haiku.
We have not. You know what? And so I'm sitting here, and since today's episode features Accursed, which has got full of monsters and other craziness.
All kinds of craziness.
I'm sitting here with 3 brandy new, never been opened, shrink-wrapped Malifaux M2E, that's Malifaux 2nd edition, plastic box starters.
Nice.
I've got
Which ones? Which ones?
University of Transmortis. These guys look nasty, man.
I don't think that's a starter. I think that's a campaign.
It can't. Well, whatever. It's a box of miniatures. They look awesome.
Yeah.
So you got some kind of like undead Valkyrie looking chick. These are just really gross, but they're awesome. There's a big dude with swords. Then,
okay. Riveting radio. Let's go on to what the other two.
The next one is
are.
the Guild's Judgment. Okay,
Ooh,
this
cool.
features Lady Justice, 3 Death Marshals, the Scales of Justice, and the Judge in there.
Nice.
And then the final set is Mother of Monsters, featuring everyone's favorite Lilith, the Malifaux Cherub, who's Charlie's got the hots for. He told me last week. 3 Terror Tots, not Tater, and Barbaros, the devil demon dude with a really cool
Barbarossa.
sword with pointy bits on it. So these are all awesome. We thought we'd do another haiku contest
Yes. Thus, you are forced
to a length.
to a length.
That's right. Haiku contest. Here you want to write a haiku that is somehow themed, or has some kind of Malifaux theme.
That's right.
Right? You will have 2 episodes to complete it, and just send your entries, text entries, emails, really easy, guys, to win something here, to contest at thed6generation.com. Rafe, do you remember the rules for a haiku?
No, you know, that's kind of your guys' thing. I don't know. It's like 6 lines, 11 lines, and 2 lines.
Not at all. No. not even close.
Rhyming couplets?
No.
Oh, God.
No. It's 3 lines.
Shakespearean sonnet?
3 lines all around syllables. 5, 7, 5. There are other variations
5,
of
7,
haikus.
5, right.
We are not accepting other variations. It is 5. This is the highly anglicized D6 generation version of haiku. 5, 7, 5. And for Russ's bonus consideration, the last line should somehow tie into the first message in line and bring it all home.
That's it. Okay, got it.
But that's like a bonus thing because not everybody can figure that out. But if you can do that, I'll give you a bonus point.
Now, do they write them in? No, they voice them in, right?
No, write them in. Send them in.
Oh, you
Send
write
them
them in. Okay.
Easy contest, and we will pick the top 3. And first place will get their choice of the 3 boxes. Second place will get second choice. Third place gets the dregs. And that's how it's going to work. Not that there's any dregs here because these are all pretty darn awesome.
They
What's
are
the due
damn
date?
fine.
2 episodes from now. So episode
Got
145. We'll give you more information at 144. Remember, contest at the d6generation.com. It's your mails. So there you go. And just put up the Lost Chapter. Last Lost Chapter. This is kind of a special one, Rafe. Do you remember what the book 72 is all about?
I do. It is a live session role-playing of Accursed, as I like to call it.
That is right.
It is.
As you like to call it, wrong.
That's not wrong.
I believe it's Accursed.
Accursed. Accursed.
Why can't I say Accursed?
You can, but you'd be wrong.
You can, but then you'd be wrong.
Why?
I'm not going to go into it.
No.
All right,
Let's-
so moving on.
Name of the Wind. Like, what's that character's name? Like Kavoth. I could just say Kavoth if I want to.
Except that I'm listening to the audiobook right now, and it's clearly I don't even know
Or something, right?
It's like vote or
Yeah.
it's something that like you would not in a million years imagine.
Yeah, but it's Kavoth in my head.
You know what, Rafe?
True, correct. But
I've
moving on.
been listening to audiobooks, speaking of pronouncing, I can finally pronounce my new faction in War Machine. Convergence of Cirrus. I can do it. Look, I did it.
Look, and it
There
only
it is.
took an entire novel.
Yes.
Oh, is that the real pronunciation?
That is the correct pronunciation.
Ah, I thought it was Chris.
No. Okay, so now, so did everybody else, or who knows?
Oh,
what
no,
it
I
was.
wasn't joking.
No, no. So anyway, Lost Chapters. You guys asked for this once in a while, and we finally got another live recording of role-playing in session. I was not involved in this one, but Rafe and Craig were, along with some of the folks from Nerd Herders and other of our local
Actually,
friends.
the entire cast of the Nerd Herders.
Yes.
That's right.
So that
Old
download
Andy,
Yeah.
Brian, yep.
other folk. So get book 72 and you'll hear the entire, it's extra long. It's like 3 hours
Yeah.
of entertainment mediocrity. So there you go.
Indeed.
And by the way, the best way to listen to Lost Chapters is through our new way to support the show, Patreon.
Yes, and we should make an announcement.
Okay.
Thanks to all of our patrons over at Patreon.
Yes.
Every one of you listening right now should thank them all. Mm-hmm. Because we have because they have been so supportive, we are going to be able to drop an episode when our existing contracts allow.
Exactly right. So we've hit our second milestone, and we'll be, and as contracts expire, we will be reducing the number of advertisers per episode, so making it better for everyone. And if you'd like to support the show, also what you want to do is head on over to the D6 Generation and click the Patreon logo on the right hand side, or go to patreon.com/the D6 Generation. Either way, and there'll be a little video of Craig and I saying hello to you, and you can learn all about how Patreon does its thing.
That's right. And you get to see us talk on a video.
Exactly. Live
once
on video.
and forever.
Yes,
Once.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Rafe?
So, Russ, I have a question about that.
Sure.
If you're a Patreon subscriber, how do you get the Lost Chapters now?
So on Patreon, there's a section called Content, and every time we post a new show, whether it is the Lost Chapter or the full episode, they show up there, and you can just download them right there from the screen. But only patrons get
that's
access.
something special that's special to Patreons?
What's that?
That's special to Patreon?
Unless you have to log in and be a patron supporting the show to get access
That's what
to
I
the
mean.
Lost Chapters. Right.
That's really cool.
Yep. There you go.
And then, can they download
From that
the
way,
show
you
from there
can still
too if
get
they
them.
want?
You can still get them from the other
Yes.
sources, as we're not limiting those.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also,
I just wanted to
Can
clarify. I didn't want
Patreon
anybody.
users get the show from there as well?
yes, you can get shows. You can link out to the main show, but you can get the show through your normal ways too. What's also
I know
cool
you
though.
could, but I just didn't know if it's like a one-stop shopping for Patreon.
Yeah,
people.
pretty much. What's also cool about it is you can go in and click on there's a whole discussion forum there as well. So basically, if you just go to the Patreon page, you'll have all the latest D6G info.
That looks disturbingly like Facebook.
Yes, it works efficiently
Okay.
like social media.
And speaking of that, that between that and Twitter, yes, I said Brian. I meant Brandon. Get off my back. Seriously, no. I said Brian Sanderson wrote Steelheart. I meant Brandon.
Wrong.
You are correct, gentlemen. Yes, I am wrong. I apologize.
Yes.
Mea culpa.
Craig.
Mea culpa.
The
Mea
internet's-
maxima culpa.
The internets do
Craig.
not forgive.
No.
You are not allowed to misspeak ever.
Right.
No,
Do you know who you are?
No,
Look,
it's totally legit.
I can misspeak because I'm incompetent. You,
Right,
sir,
Ross can.
are a published
Yeah.
author. You need to have
well, not only that, but I
a
mean,
certain level of gravitas.
And a trained and skilled theatrical orator.
Yes.
Ooh, wow.
Yes.
Wow. You're hitting me from all sides.
Right.
Well, anyway, I am sorry. I did obviously, of course, mean Brandon Sanderson.
Right.
I kind of want to look up Brian Sanderson and see who that is.
All right.
But
Ooh, well, all that is said now. So what's the time now for, Craig?
Now it's time for Achievements in Gaming!
Uh-oh. Our achievement noise is brought to you by... There it is. There's the achievement noise. Achievements in Gaming is brought to you by The Eclectic Gamer. The third time's a charm. Eclectic-gamer.com is looking for beta testers for a website that gives customized board game ratings. Check out eclectic-gamer.com/ratings. Okay, here we go.
Also, I'd just like to point out one more time that if you look up Brian Sanderson on Google, only Brandon Sanderson pops up.
No way.
Yeah.
Nice.
So there is no Brian Sanderson. I created him.
All right, so Raef, you're the guest this week. What have you been playing lately?
Okay, let's see. I'm still experiencing Google Doc technical difficulties, so let's go from memory. Yes, that's right. I went to TempleCon with my good friend Craig, and he was there, and he introduced me to his favorite game, Sails of Glory.
Oh, yeah.
And I enjoyed it only because Craig was playing it on the opposite side of the table with me.
Uh-oh.
Other than that, not my cup of tea. But actually a very well-crafted game.
Okay.
I then played Caverna, Uwe Rosenberg, probably about 5 times.
Wow.
Did not bore of it ever, but am achieving one of my goals, ironically, Russ, with my Gamer Cleanse goal, which was to play a game so many times that it's no longer just the rules, it's strategy.
There you go.
So, Russ, I've played it so many times that
you're bored?
I pretty much memorized the starting option of room tiles.
Wow. Okay.
And so what that enabled me to do is I'm like, okay, let's see. Oop, Craig nabbed that one. That means the second best one is this one. And it's really been fun to play at that level. Now, that being said, I'm not winning or necessarily blowing out the doors on this thing or anything like that. So sorry, my wife's coming in and making googly eyes at me as I'm recording. And so it's not like I'm grokking it and making 172 points or anything, but I still just have a blast playing my little cave farmer. So I did that.
Yeah.
And Craig, can you help me out? You might know this game. Russ, you might even know it too. It's a kickstarted game. It's got dice. It's kind of like Christian brought it. Christian was playing it, but it's really Will's game.
What's the theme?
Dungeon or castle. Is it castle dice?
Oh, it's not dungeon. Dungeon
castle.
roll.
No, it's not. It's not castle. Not dungeon. Yeah.
Oh, castle
castle dice.
Okay.
Yes, it is castle.
So
dice.
what do you do in castle dice?
It's a European style like worker placement type of game with dice rolling.
All right.
Really fun. I didn't play it though. I only watched it.
Okay.
Really fun. Russ, I think you'd like it.
All I know is that it's not dungeon roll.
No, it's not.
They were like, "Look, it's a fun game." I looked over, and literally the entire table was full of dice and tokens and trees.
Well, that's
and
cool.
Sheets and
Trees, really?
Gosh, you would like it.
Oh, nice. I like anything with trees.
And I think kids could play it too.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Achievement for that?
Got to finally play X-Wing. Craig, were you in on that? I can't remember.
I was.
Yeah. So Matt, what's the name of that ship, Craig? The big rebel.
Tantive or the Tantive 4.
Yes.
It's the Rebel Blockade Runner.
Yes.
We have lots of pictures that I tweeted from
I
that
saw.
event.
Yes, I retweeted some of those.
So Russ, so Matt had it like actual scale. So it's like it was really a toy.
It was ginormous. Yeah, it's awesome.
G-line.
Yeah.
And then, we played the TIE fighters versus the X-Wings and A-Wings and B-Wings, and we were escorting the rebel ship out, and that was just a blast. And was that a scenario Matt created, or he found it?
No, he found it online.
Yeah, it was so fun. I played Sins of the Solar Empire board game with Russ. That's not true, Russ. What's the name of that game?
Eclipse.
Eclipse.
Yes.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Played that 2 times.
Yeah, with the ships and everything. Yeah.
Yep. Played a new rail game with New Jeremy, also known as Turtle, and his wife. Russ, you might even know the name of this
Railroad?
game. I can't remember it.
Russian Railroad?
Yep, that's it.
Yep, there you go.
Much beefier rail game placement game than one would think. That one burned my brain up.
Did you like it? Because it's getting pretty good reviews.
I did not like it, but that's no fault of the game. I could see it being a very good game. It was more thinky than I liked.
Okay.
Yep. And then finally, TempleCon just whetted my appetite to play both Flames of War, which I have not played recently, and War Machine. I got no games of War Machine in at TempleCon, which is a real bummer.
Oh, boo.
Yep. Boo, big boo. But I did break out a game yesterday, and that's even after Dave Farr bailed on me and got sick. So Andy pitched in, and Russ, I texted you too late, so you didn't have a chance to bring your army. So Andy jumped in and played Convergence of, what is it? Cyrus?
Yes. Convergence of Cyrus, yes.
And I played Butcher 3.
Nice. And how'd you do?
Well, we didn't really get to finish, but with Butcher 3, I kind of stomped and ate 2 of his jacks and was on 2 of the objectives by turn 3, so we just called it.
Yeah, we in the Convergence don't use jacks. We have vectors, just FYI.
Well, I ate 2 vectors.
All right. Nice.
With the Butcher.
So how you liking Butcher 3? He's the one with the dogs, right?
He's the one with the Argus, our guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. So I just worked through his feet and worked through his mechanics and worked through his timing and stuff like that, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
I'm going to save my overall. I have a thought on TempleCon, but I'll save that to other.
Okay.
And that's what I've been playing.
Okay.
Craig, what have you been playing?
No, I lied. For home, I've played Survive with the kids.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Rampage.
Yeah, how do the kids like Rampage?
Surprisingly, not as much as I thought.
Me too.
Really?
I am having more fun with that game with gamers. My kids did not love it. I was like shocked. I'm like, it's a game where you flick discs and blow and do all kinds of crazy, and they're like, nah. They'd rather play Crossmasters or something. They didn't.
I thought it was just like I did it. I had a nephew sleepover, and I just thought they were tired from being up too much the night before.
It was like,
they
let's play.
Bored.
They were like,
bored.
Yeah, they were like, let's play Sentinels of the Multiverse. Let's play Crossmasters. They're like, all these are the games I'd rather play. I don't know if I've got my kids like, I don't know. I was kind of surprised. I thought, now I'm loving playing with other people. I don't regret purchasing it all. It's it's actually kind of fun party game with grown-ups. But for some reason, my kids aren't into it.
I mean, Doc, I got mine from Doc, and because he had the stickers still, and so he sent me a copy, and I'm kind of regretting it because if my kids don't like it, then between all of you guys that own it, there's really no need for me to.
I know. I was surprised about that too. I was surprised.
Yeah, they rather play Survive.
Yeah. See, I don't know what that's about.
Well, at least you've
what's
got the
that
game
about?
they would like to play.
Yeah, they definitely like games. It's just for some reason Rampage isn't hitting it with the kids. I don't know why that is. Now I've heard other people don't have this problem, so I don't know. But
do you think it's the collecting the one color meeple?
No.
Versus just collecting meeples or something?
No, I don't know.
I know, and I was like, look, you can take the bus.
I know.
You can flick it.
I know. That should be awesome. I don't understand.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'm done.
All right, so what have you been playing, Craig?
Well, I played something that Raef forgot to mention, which would be the Accursed one-off session that we played.
There you go.
With the Nerd Herders, Ian, Matt, and Dave, who ran the game, and then Old Andy and Brian, and of course Raef. And that is, of course, the session that is recorded. Now, it's not all recorded because I skipped over combat in Savage Worlds can sometimes get a little slow and clunky, and so I stopped at some combat points after the first big battle. I kind of stopped a little bit. I've played Wild West Exodus twice in the last week.
Oh, nice. There you go.
I am really, really enjoying that game.
Nice. So now,
I'm
did you
having
play,
a blast.
How many points and which factions fought? And
we played 600 points, which is kind of like
that's a good size,
a small to middling game.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I have the lawmen and outlaws, but I just have so little time that I decided to focus on the lawmen. So I ran, of course, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, who is vicious. And UR30, because you just need one of those robots.
Oh yeah, you need a robot.
And then a bunch of little guys. Oh, and what is it called? The Interceptor, the bike.
Oh yeah, you got
and that was awesome. And I played. Chris came over. My vacation was rotten for a variety of reasons, and I was working and in the hospital a lot for a variety of people. But Chris carved out an evening, and he came over to my house, and we set it all up, and we played. He plays Warrior Nation, and so we had Brimstone all set up in the pub, and it really like full all out. All the cacti were out, and all the little barrels. Everything was all set up, and we had a really, really, really good time. I tweeted a bunch of pictures of that.
Yes, I love.
And it's a lot of fun because it really is it's like a combination of sort of a Mordheim kind of level of Games Workshop-y sort of beer and pretzels game, with a gut shot role playing light element to it.
I like that you can climb and jump and all that stuff's in there.
Yeah, exactly. I had Doc
Would I like
Holliday
it, Craig?
and I think you would.
Okay.
I had Doc Holliday and a rifleman start on the there aren't that many games you can make the following statement. I had Doc Holliday and a rifleman hanging out on the balcony of the brothel. And I needed to get another guy down to Wyatt, who is underneath on the boardwalk of the brothel, taking pot shots down the street, because the lawmen, when they're standing side by side, their armor sort of interacts and gets stronger. So he jumped off the roof onto the balcony and twisted his ankle, took a wound. Then he jumped off the balcony onto the street and twisted his ankle, took a couple more wounds.
Oh, see, I like rules like that.
And but it's all very, very simple. Like one die roll, done, move on to the next thing. So it's very beer and pretzels. It's very simple. I think there's probably going to be like some arguments at some point. There are people that I won't play. I can tell you that right now. But I had a blast with Chris. So yes,
good.
Yes.
Is it the simple kind that's fun simple, or simple that's frustrating simple?
No, I think it's fun simple.
Fun simple. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I hope the people who are listening to me know me well enough that although I do have a humongous stake in this game's success, that if I didn't enjoy it, I just wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah. Your model would be you just wouldn't say that much about it.
Exactly.
Correct.
But
now, Russ, have you tried it yet? Because you're all Mr. West.
We reviewed it. I like it a lot.
Didn't say, did you review it?
Well, I wouldn't review it if I hadn't played it.
Well, I meant like playing it.
Oh. Yes, I played the game, and then I reviewed the game. I played about 7 games now of it.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yes, I like it a lot. So I think it's very, very good. The rules are fast and fun. There's enough depth there for everybody. There is a couple places that are ambiguous. So there, as Craig mentioned, there's going to be spots where people get a little
that's what version 2 is for, right?
But they'll clean that up. But I love it's got the core of what it needs, which is fantastic models, really cool setting, and solid rules to have fun and enough variety so you can allow lots of cool stuff. And I do like how it's not influence anymore. Craig, I just lost the name of
it's influence.
Yeah, the influence system works. Where you can spend them for your rerolls, and that really seems to keep the game moving. Even like hopping off the roof, you could put influence into that roll to try to make sure you made that jump or whatever.
Well, I mean, I'm just a fan of Romeo, and I like Romeo. I like what he does. I like Battle Foam. And here's a guy who created a game, okay? And I don't care. I don't know the game. I don't know anything. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. But he created something from nothing. So to me, that's just cool.
All right.
You know?
It is
now,
cool.
Russ,
It's
I
a
have a question for you.
Yeah.
What kind of faction do you play?
I have the Outlaws because Jesse James and Billy the Kid are awesome. But I do want to get the Lawmen too because they're the cowboyiest cowboys.
Are the models fiddly to put together or like really cool?
So the resin models, which are all the main heroes, they go together pretty easily. You got to use regular glue, super glue on those, but they go together pretty well. They look over the top great. Like they're on par with anything else out there right now. The plastics, who are basically the hired hands, like the regular Joes, which make up the bulk of your army.
Yeah.
Those guys, they do come in a lot of bits, and they're on a sprue, and they're all labeled, so you want to cut them out carefully, clip them carefully. The nice thing is they are true plastics, so you can use polystyrene cement to put them together.
Okay.
They don't have flexible poses, and their quality is good, better than I expected. And so I'd say they're probably average miniatures, but they look cool. But the combine those with the hero miniatures, and you have a really, really solid looking game. It looks great. And then
you painted yours up, Russ, or anything?
I have a couple guys, but I want to get more. I haven't done enough. I keep wanting to do it. I'm trying to decide if I want to do this at Adepticon to kind of get myself to get off my butt and paint them all.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to tell myself that's the game I want to play at Adepticon, but now that I'm reading my War Machine novels, I'm getting distracted, so it's a problem. But I do like it a lot. It's a very, very fun skirmish game, and the setting calls to me a lot, more than Malifaux. So the problem I'm having now is I feel it pulling me more than, because I like Malifaux because I like cowboys, and this is more cowboy than Malifaux. So this is making me feel like this is my secondary skirmish game now instead of Malifaux as my secondary skirmish game. Yeah. Yep. That's just me, though.
Well, you're a big West guy.
And I am bringing it to Adepticon. That's why I wanted to get them painted.
See, then I got to do mine too. Okay, Craig, that's it. I have a challenge. I'm going to paint.
See, there you go.
Let's do it right now. On the air right now. I will get how many dollars do I need to have painted?
Say like $750, so we have a little bit of leeway.
So everybody knows the point system in this game is dollars. So $750. So $750. No. I only got I just got the base faction from the Kickstarter, so I had a reasonable amount. Some of our friends really got all in, which is fine, but I don't have any of the vehicles or anything for the Outlaws or anything like that. I just have basically the base dudes and all the grunts. I probably have.
You have any bikes? You need to get some bikes.
I have no bikes, but I do need to get some. Hopefully, there'll be some for sale at Adepticon.
I would imagine there may be.
Yes, excellent. All right.
Excellent
So, what else have you been playing, Craig?
What else have I been playing, Russ? That's an excellent question. What the heck was that Velociraptor game we played last night?
I want to hear about this.
Okay, so that was Velociraptor Cannibalism.
Yes, that's the only other thing I've played.
From our friends at Game Salute. So this game just came out. It was a Kickstarter. It's now out. And in this game, it is a very... Raef, you would love this game. This game is like Killer Bunnies on crack with Velociraptors.
Oh, cool.
What this game is. So a lot of luck here. Don't go in very seriously. But basically the premise is you each have a mat. And on your mat is a Velociraptor. And they're all kind of funny, silly themed. So you might have a robot Velociraptor or sort of a Velociraptor wearing bunny ears or whatever. There's these silly... Now, then there are 2 decks of cards. The first deck of cards is the exploring action cards. And the second deck of cards, I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically your mutation. And what's going to happen in this game is you're going to go explore in the jungle, try to find food. The food cards contain sort of cute artwork around some kind of crazy food ranging from harp seals to bunnies to all these cute little things.
Okay.
But then also there's a number of calories on the food. And you must consume, you put the calories you eat into your stomach, it's a little spot in your mat, and then you can spend the calories to mutate your creature, and you draw randomly from the mutation pile, and then you can put them into one of 6 slots, or 5 slots on your guy, and it replaces his head, so your head can mutate from your Velociraptor head into like a Hydra head or something crazy, and then your front little Velociraptor appendages could mutate into like giant hippopotamus legs that you can stomp with or whatever. And when you do these mutations, they're going to augment your basic stats. So you have a stat for how many cards you can get when you hunt. You have a stat for your attack and your defense statistic. Then you can also spend calories on laying little eggs, and your eggs are your victory points, but you can also spend an action your turn to attack someone else. And if you've got better stats than they do, you can steal their egg.
Oh, cool.
So, very simple. The charm in this game is in the silliness of the mutations. I could compare it to Killer Bunnies or maybe Munchkin, in that there's not a lot of deep strategy or arguably much strategy. It's really all about the wackiness of your creature. And all of a sudden you've got a bee stinger for a tail and a cow head that's named Dr. Moo, and it's based after a Doctor Who theme or whatever. All this craziness that does special things and all that.
It sounds like Killer Bunny-esque.
It is very much. So what'd you think of it, Craig?
It was better than Killer Bunnies.
Okay.
I enjoyed it more than Killer Bunnies.
It's a fun, reasonably fast filler, and it's again very, very silly. So you just got to kind of play it that way. But I do like the artwork and the sort of the theme of it was really fun.
Cool.
Anything else, Craig?
No, that was me.
Okay, so I've been
What
playing.
about you?
Well, I played the Velociraptor game we just talked about with Craig. Then, so this Tuesday, Raef, Sentinels of the Multiverse Vengeance came out, which is the latest expansion for Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Okay.
Which is still my favorite superhero game. So for those who don't know, Sentinels of the Multiverse has been around for a while now. This is the co-op game where you basically, now there's like 5 or 6 expansions or whatever they are. So you have a villain, and you got this large villain card that he has a deck of actions that happens. You then pick another deck for the location. So maybe you're fighting in Atlantis, or you're fighting in a city, or you're fighting at, Rock the Volcano, or in old primeval world, or the Old West, or whatever you're fighting at. Then you've each got a hero, and there's a whole bunch of heroes you can choose from. And they're all, this is non-IP, so it's their own invention, but they've done a really great job of capturing the theme of all these heroes. So in the latest expansion, though, now the main bad guy, or one of the main earliest bad guys, Baron Blade, who is the sort of the bumbling mad scientist guy, he's morphed now, and he's decided to get back at the heroes. He's formed the Vengeful Five, which is now a alliance of villains, and the Vengeance Pack includes 5 new villains as well as several new heroes and new locations as well. Now, the heroes and locations can be used in any other expansion, so you can basically there's more heroes to choose from now, basically. But in this game, you now can choose. You play the Vengeful Five mode. The game is set up, instead of one villain, it's a normal gameplay. It's one big villain. The villain gets a turn, then all the heroes go, and then the villain gets a turn again. So, and there's an environment phase in the middle there, but basically that's what happens. So a villain gets to do some bunch of stuff, he summons some minions, fights you, does some damage to some heroes, then all the heroes go, and then the villain's turn again. In this one, you set the table up so it's villain, hero, villain, hero, villain, hero, going all the way around. And so it alternates. The villains aren't played by players, they're still controlled by their cards, but you play the villain to your right. So, and they're all a little weaker, but there's a lot of them. So you got to figure out a good strategy how to deal with them. It's just a totally new way to play. It's really, really neat. And it's a lot harder. We played twice. We just outright lost the first game. Not even close. They destroyed us. But then in the second game, Josh joined us and he was playing the Naturalist, which is a new hero. And he's like this little tree hugging dude that can morph into any of these happy animals. Kind of like, the Wonder Twins form of a rhinoceros. Well, he took rhinoceros form and was able to absorb lots of damage and tank for us. And then with that going on, we were able to defeat all the villains, and it was fun. So
cool.
Great addition. I would highly recommend this expansion if you're a Sentinels fan. Also played Eminent Domain. Now, the goal of playing Eminent Domain was to try the new expansion, Eminent Domain Escalation, which finally brings a meaning to the different spaceships. So in the original Eminent Domain, there are the 3 different plastic spaceships. There's a little tiny fighter, there's a medium-sized ship, and there's a capital ship. They don't do anything in Eminent Domain. They're just like, I don't know, they all mean spaceship. But in the new expansion, they have different values, they do different things. There's also different cards you can do, cool stuff going on there. But we realized we started to set up that like none of us had played Eminent Domain in like a year. And we couldn't remember the rules, and we're getting overwhelmed, so we played regular Eminent Domain to learn the rules, and next week we'll try the Escalation expansion. So,
see? You need to go on a gamer cleanse.
I know. Then, though, I tried this is not a new game for this year. It came out in 2012 because I played Zolkin, the Mayan calendar game.
Isn't that the, like Genie in the box in the movie Big that shrinks Tom Hanks?
No. This is...
that's Zoltan.
Zoltan.
Oh.
Yeah, it's nice, though. So I think it's pronounced Zolkin. It's TZOLK''IN.
I wouldn't even try.
Yes. So in this game, it is a really interesting board. It's a worker placement game, all themed after Mayan themes, obviously. And then on the board, though, there's these giant plastic gears that rotate. And you rotate the main gear, which rotates these 4 little satellite gears when you do it. And the main gear rotates each day, which is basically after each player's had a turn, the gear rotates. And all players get a turn, the gear rotates. What's happening here is during your turn, you're placing workers onto the table, onto the actual gears themselves, and then when you remove the workers later, they activate whatever they're standing next to on the board, and there's different icons that tell you what they do. So it might give you more corn, which is basically your money. It might give you increased status with the gods, which is the primary victory point system in the game. It might give you other resources like gold or rock or wood or whatever you need to get. Or you might be able to buy a building, all the different actions you take, but instead of taking the actions in some worker placement games, you put the workers on, you take the action when you take the worker off. And what's interesting about this is, so you put them on, and then days pass, and this is going to move the gears, which is going to move your workers. So you're kind of waiting for your worker to get in the right spot, so when you take them off, you get the action you want, which is kind of neat. So, interesting game, really not hard to understand or learn the rules, really, really, really hard to master. A lot going on here, and this is not the game for the faint of heart. If you don't mind a nice brain burner where you really, really got to think, this is it. Really, really cool components. Great game, but definitely a brain burner, so you want to make sure you go in there understanding that. I would say this is not a great game. Just saying.
No. Doesn't look like a great game either.
Then I played Eclipse several times. I played with Raef. Then I got the Eclipse cube trays. So these are awesome. So I ordered these things from the Broken Pawn. Or the Broken Token. I can't remember. One of those places.com. And on this thing, there is they have plastic see-through trays. So if you know Raef and Eclipse, you have those little cubes lined up. And if you nudge them, they all slide all over the place.
Yeah, totally.
Well, this little plastic tray goes on top of your mat, and then all the cubes lock into it, so that while you're playing, they can't slide around. But better than that, they have little bottoms on them, and if you stack them all up with the cubes in them, and then put a piece of Hugo's Amazing Tape around the entire thing, now they can store in the box with all the cubes in their trays. You take them up, put them on your trays and your mats, and you're ready to rock.
Oh, nice.
Really like that. So now my Eclipse is totally blinged out with the spaceship pack, must get, makes the game look cool, and my cube trays. Still loving Eclipse, love every minute of it. I have played it now, I want to say 6 times in as many weeks. Really liking it. It's my favorite 4X game. Really, really digging it. Then played some more Descent. And still liking that. I did lose this time around, but it was a nail-biter, really close. Had a good battle with the heroes. That was fun. And was taught Keyflower as well, and had a good time with that also. Keyflower is the Game Sloot game where you have these, it's worker placement as well. But what's interesting is you're also building a little Carcassonne city in front of yourself that is going to reveal places where you can put your workers. So that is all my games.
Cool.
Wow, that's a lot of games.
It is. So that's that. What about modeling? Raef, doing any modeling lately?
No, but I have a hybrid.
All right.
All right. I organized my X-Wing tray.
I'll give you that.
So I've been, collecting a bunch of the different X-Wings, and again, like I kind of had one of every ship, and that bugged me. So I got some multiples, so I could kind of have a little bit of a fleet, and so I kind of outgrew my box. So when I was at TempleCon, Battle Foam was there, and I can't remember it wasn't Romeo, but it was one of his employees who was like super helpful. I was kind of like, this is my challenge, and he's like, look, you can fit like 3 X-Wings and 3 TIE Wings here. It's a lot of room in that tray to fit multiple ships. So I was sold on that. And then I wanted to get the case too, but I was like, I've kind of got a bunch of Battle Foam cases. I'll just get the foam. That was a mistake. Because now I'm just like, carrying my foam around with, with bending and with little pieces popping out.
Yeah, that's always a
mistake. But that was fun. It was fun to get organized,
Cool. All right.
And then Dave Farr and I looked up different kind of to create a neat little like wood burned etched or laser etched wooden tray for Caverna. But in the meantime, I saw Craig had these really cool Stanley kind of like little carrying cases for like screws and nails and stuff, but you can put gamer pieces in. But what's neat is they stack and clip together.
Yep.
So I got those for Caverna. I haven't set it up yet. Have full armies full.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're breaking up a little bit there, but I think you're okay. I think we got that. Okay. So, Craig, what have you been building?
Well, for our Accursed game, I decided that I wanted to get some models painted. So I actually dug through my Reaper Bones vampire set, which I'd done some of the painting for the Kobolds for Kids charity event that should be up and running in the next few weeks.
Hope so.
But I hadn't painted any of my own, and I wasn't really thrilled with the bones when I painted the charity models. But the whole point of getting it was so that I would have models whenever I needed them for whatever one-off we put together. So I asked Dave what he needed, and he gave me a little list. And so I painted a character model for myself, which of course I have like 100 RPG basic character level models to choose from now. So I could find one that I wanted. I painted a shade character model, which when we talk about Accursed, you'll know more about that. It's basically a ghost. So that's one of the green translucent models. So that was fun to paint. So I painted the base and the little detailing, like the tombstone and stuff on the base, and I painted his sword, and I just inked the green translucent bits, and it looks really, really cool.
Nice.
I painted 5 zombies, 4 golems, 5 lizard men, 1 monster ghoul, and a giant lizard troll thing. And I had fun. I really enjoyed it. The not being able to spray prime is a pain in the butt, but once I got them hand painted, primed, and all I'd used was like a 99-cent
Why
thing
can't you
of craft
spray prime?
paint. It gets all sticky and tacky.
Oh, that's the bones thing?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I hand paint just regular black craft paper.
Why can't you do that again? I remember hearing you guys talk about
it's
that.
It's sticky. It's tacky. It becomes tacky. You
Okay.
spray it and it becomes tacky. But I really enjoyed it. They actually came out looking really good. And so that was a blast. And I painted a bunch of them. So that was fun. And I did that all in 3 hours.
That's like Craig Old School right there.
That's impressive. Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh my God, I've only got a little bit of time and I want to do it. I finished my Wild West Exodus Lawman posse, so that was fun.
Nice.
Then I decided to paint the tokens that the game comes with because they're kind of cheesy.
Yeah,
I sprayed them and then I dry brushed them and then I did a little detail work. And then I painted some really cool resin scale neutral objective counters.
Nice.
That turned out really cool also. So I kind of had little spurts over vacation where I had like an hour here, an hour there, and I got a lot done. So
well,
I really
pretty motivating because when I was setting up the war machine battle with Andy, Russ, I was using some of the myriad terrain, which was fine. And then like we needed a control area for something, so I kind of had this piece of black felt. And Craig walks by, he's like, "Really? Like the table looks really good with all the other terrain." He's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's the control area." He's like, "Okay, that's what you want."
Yeah. We'd have to work
kind
on
of
that.
motivating to get the extra stuff done.
Yeah.
You kind of need to.
You do.
You do actually.
You do.
Yeah. So when I was doing that with the bones, though, that's when I found that Stanley small toolbox set That's three little
that's when you found
cases.
it.
Yeah, it's three little cases that all clip together, and I have all of my vampire plus extras that I bought all organized in these three little cases, organized by type of character. So I've got male fighters in one little thing, and female fighters, and male wizards and female wizards. I've got lizard men in one, and undead in another, and so they really broke down really nicely. And so I did that. As far as
it was very important for me, and Russ is good at this too. Like, Russ will come with a game, and it all fits in the box, and he busts out these planos, and I'm like, where do you get those? And he's always like, dude, you get Walmart. And I'm like, okay. And he makes it sound like it's so simple. And every time I go to Walmart, I look in the sports section. Nope. I look in the fishing and tackle section. They've got like 3 planos, and that's it. Well, and they're all too big or something. So I was like, ugh.
Sporting
so I was
goods
there
stores
again,
also.
and then I texted Craig, and he led me in the right direction.
And any sporting goods store that has good fishing section will have the tackle box stuff you need.
Yeah, that's what you always say. You make it sound like it's so easy, but it seems like when I try it, I go to Dick's, nothing.
Really? Dick's got a huge wall.
I would say it's always Walmart for me.
Yeah. All right, well, try it out. I was at the new Bass Pro Shop, too, that just opened up in
oh, yeah.
Hampshire,
Well, I haven't been up there
which
yet.
Which
is
is,
cool?
awesome. Just an awesome experience. It's like Disney World for outdoors people. Because it's just like, no, totally. Like, they got, like, all the theming and giant everything. And but just huge aquarium, like something out of Tanked, the TV show, just crazy. But what was awesome was the tackle box section was crazy good. So just saying, if you want here, I got new boots there, by the way, just FYI.
Oh, okay. Bass boots?
No. These were no. Yeah. So I've been doing no
Can we hear
modeling.
more about your boots? A couple pics or something? Or?
No modeling for me. Too many video games right now. I'm definitely, but I got to take a break and do some Wild West Exodus. I'm having painting withdrawal. So
there you go. See.
All right. So let's see. What about other Raef? What have you been doing?
All right. Well, I've been missing my MMO time. That's where I relax. It's when I de-stress. And Latro is still going strong. They got lots of updates, but they changed the game. They took away the instances. That's what I've enjoyed. I enjoy leveling up so that I can play with my friends and complete and beat a dungeon, so to speak. They kind of took that away. I don't know why. They're making books and they're doing new stuff, but it's following the lore, but they haven't made us any new instances. So my social friends there are totally like bailed on Latro. So there's like nobody left. So then on a whim, I'm like searching and looking and what am I going to do? So I downloaded Guild Wars 2, which I know has been out for a while, but it's really scratching my MMO itch, and maybe I'll talk about that in the Hollywood Minute or something, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a fantasy setting. It's simple enough so that I can do it. And I like the simple button mashing. Like when people are like, I'm so bored with MMOs, they do the same thing over and over again. I'm like, I kind of like it. That's what I like about it. But I want a different story or a different experience. So, hey, I'm making a shout out there to anybody who's in Guild Wars 2 or wants to be in Guild Wars 2. I think I'm on the server called Ferguson's Crossing. Look me up and teach me how to play the game.
All right.
I also downloaded on Xbox I think I told you this, Russ, the Wolf Among Us.
Yep.
I'm really enjoying that. I don't follow the comics. It's based on a comic. The story writing in the Xbox Live game is excellent. It's also on Steam. They have it's season 1, episode 2 came out, but I haven't had a chance to play that yet. I've downloaded it. Pulp Comic Reads. I don't know if you guys keep up on Amazing Spider-Man, but Peter Parker died. I don't know if you knew that.
Spoiler alert.
Yep,
Seriously,
spoiler
dude.
alert. That happened about a year ago.
Okay.
And Otto Octavius.
This is a thing, though, right? They're killing all the heroes off once and then bringing back someone else to replace them.
It's not like it's new.
Is there
But
a
this
hero
guy-
arc where that hasn't happened, except for maybe Wolverine because he can't die or something?
Yeah, although his healing factor seems to have gone away. But anyway,
All right.
it seems like this time they really meant it.
All right.
And Doc Ock takes over Peter Parker's body.
Oh,
and
you told us
becomes
this story.
Spider-Man.
Then isn't Peter Parker like
himself.
a ghost or something weird or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the comic is called Superior Spider-Man. It's kind of a neat premise, actually, where Doc Ock is like, Peter Parker's kind of dumb because why doesn't he take care of Aunt May? Like, this woman's so nice to him, and why does he keep blowing off her life? And so he shows up all the time to Aunt May's things, and he's almost a better nephew. And he kind of does these other things a little better, but then of course his evilness starts to take over. Anywho, I was a little bit behind on my comic poll, went to Double Midnight Comics, and I had about 8 Superior Spider-Mans in the queue. And again, this is not earth-shattering writing, guys. You know, if you're not a Spider-Man fan, you'll pick it up, you'll be bored. But if you're a Spider-Man fan, it's fun. So anyway, Russ, they give me the sheet for the next month's poll, and it says Amazing Spider-Man #1, right? Big surprise. But I'm like, ooh, wait a minute. I talked to Chris Prue, one of the owners. I'm like, wait, are they going back to Amazing Spider-Man? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, don't tell me anymore. So now I know in my stack, I'm going to learn how we get back to Amazing Spider-Man, you know.
There'll just be a reboot.
They're doing a reboot, yeah.
It'll be the story of this teenager who gets bitten by a radioactive spider. And
Actually, I take that back. I'm not so sure it's a reboot. Because a reboot is kind of like Mysterio comes in and wipes everybody's mind clean and, oh, it's Amazing Spider-Man #1.
Okay.
I think the story is going to continue. Like, somehow
right.
we're going to figure out how Peter gets back.
Oh,
and
we'll
what
see.
happens to Doc Ock, you know?
All right.
I read this new book called Seven Forges, and this was the first time I did a book on Kindle, which was on my iPad, and Audible at the same time. Have you guys ever done the syncing thing?
The Whisper Sync? No, I've never tried it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah. I've mixed reviews of that.
Okay.
To get a little weird and geeky on you guys, which is what this show is about, I started listening to the book, and I didn't like the narrator. So I stopped listening to it and started reading it, and then when I had that voice in my head, like pronouncing Kvolth, and Convergence of Chris and all that, I enjoyed the book much better when I had the voices in my own head. So, but it was neat technology. I do recommend it. A guy is an accomplished writer, but he's never written a fantasy novel before, so it's a little bit rough in edges, almost like he's a new writer. He takes a little while to get going, but let's put it this way. When it ended, I was like, what? Wait a minute, it's over? Where's book 2? And he hasn't made book 2 yet, so that's a good thing. And then, you know what, Russ? This next book, does this next book just weird you out?
What's the name of it?
That I've listed here. The 5 Love Languages.
Okay, that doesn't sound like something I would read, no.
Okay. So I love self-help books and business and stuff like this. So this was recommended to me. And I kind of feel like I have this premise that geeks make good husbands and wives. I don't know why I come up with this premise. I think it has to do with maybe how we were treated in high school, or think we were treated in high school. And so I think we appreciate, relationships really well. So this book talks about how there are the languages that your spouse feels loved by, and they're not necessarily the language you speak. So we tend to speak in the languages that, like, I know how I feel loved, and so we try to show love to the other person in the way we would want to be loved, but it might not be the way they want to be loved.
Okay.
For example, let's see if I can name them all. I'll be really brief. It's words of affirmation is one love language. Gifts is another love language. Quality time is another love language. Acts of service is another love language. And physical touch. So let's say, for example, that I'm a physical touch guy. And so I might be like touching my wife or hugging my wife or kissing my wife and all these things. But if her love language is words of affirmation, which is, really bolstering her and what she's doing, what she's talking about, she's not going to feel that love as much if I'm touching her and hugging her and kissing her and doing all these things when she speaks a different love language. It was really cool, quick read, and I found it to be fascinating, and I'm using it in my old relationship, and it's like awesome. So it's so good that I'm bringing it on a geek podcast.
Okay. Well, good. It sounds like Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus, but they divided it by 5.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough.
It's nothing like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's not like we're different but the same and all that. It's more how do you identify your spouse's love language? How do you learn to speak it better? Why would you want to speak it better? That kind of thing. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Mm-hmm. All right. I'll give you an achievement for love language. There you go.
All right.
All right. Craig, what have you been doing?
Based on Mac Martin's recommendation, I did run out, and the very next day I ordered for my Kindle, not for my Whisper Sync, Audible and Kindle. I ordered Spin, which is the novel that he was talking about by Robert Charles Wilson. And I have to say it was awesome. I've already finished it.
Huh.
It was fantastic. It was what Under the Dome could have been.
Uh-oh.
if Stephen King
be careful.
had more faith in humanity.
Be careful.
And in my opinion, was a better closer.
All right.
I'll say that's all I'll say. When you get, I mean, if you've read Under the Dome and you were satisfied with the ending, then I don't understand the way your brain works. Let's put it that way. And if you read Spin, when you get to the end, it's kind of like, oh my God, that's like brain blowing. It's awesome. It's really cool. It's like old school sci-fi. It's very metaphysical. It's not spaceships and lasers and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that. And I moved right into book 2, Axis, which is a little bit slower, and it doesn't have the, I mean, you now know the universe, so it's not like that amazing wow factor. But I'm still enjoying it a lot. I finished Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. And I enjoyed it. You've got to keep reminding yourself that he's literally like going into this consciously recreating a comic book mentality. So the aesthetic is comic books, the plot line is comics. I mean, he does things specifically that look weird or sound weird in a novel because they would be that way in a comic book.
Right.
Right down to the swears are all like made up words that refer to things in the universe and stuff like that. But I enjoyed it a lot. Can't wait for the next one. And now I'm reading or listening to Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and narrated by Nick Podell. And I'm only like 15 minutes into it, but I loved it when I read it, so I'm looking forward to listening to it again.
You know what's funny on that, Craig, is
What's that?
On a whim, I don't know why, I needed to read Name of the Wind again, so I read both books again just recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So good. So good.
Yeah. And,
I even got, and then I figured it was such long ago, I'm like, I wonder how close he is on the third book, but his blog doesn't say.
Right. I'm getting kind of a George R.R. Martin vibe from him lately.
Me too.
But who knows?
He cranked out 2 books, now he's taking a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of cranking out, over my vacation where I literally had not a single day of just like doing my own thing, I had 4 days where I wrote 25,000 words for
Good God, man.
for the next novel. So that's a quarter of a novel in 4 days. So that was a lot of words in 4 days. My brain was dribbling out my ears. I don't know if they're any good. They probably all suck. They're probably really bad words, but it was a lot of words in 4 days. So
that's what makes me feel really horrible as a human being when I'm playing my MMO and baking fake pies.
Well, I'll say this: I used to do a lot more like role playing game prepping, and I don't think I could ever run a role playing game ever again. Like I couldn't GM it; it takes too much time. And I used to watch a lot more TV, and I used to paint a lot more models, and I used to take a lot longer to paint them all. I mean, I'm snipping. You know, I used to be a lot more accessible for pretty much everything from this podcast to pretty much everything else I do. So, I mean, you got to snip the time out of the schedule here.
See, notice
there,
how
and
Russ
everywhere.
is all quiet over there.
What do you mean?
He doesn't feel guilty. He's like, ooh, Titanfall, 4 hours. Yes, 4 days. Awesome. Wait, you got to play Titanfall.
No, it's what I don't want you to feel guilty. I'm saying
I know.
You make your choices, and it's what you want to do.
Right.
I mean, when I wanted to watch TV, that's what I was doing. I was watching TV, and I wasn't agonizing over the TV I was watching or the models I was painting.
Right. And I don't watch much TV either. So that's one of the things. Definitely get more time that way.
Yeah,
I'm jealous of it.
But that's me.
Yeah. So, well, been doing a lot of listening of books too. So, for example, I was very excited. I think I mentioned this last episode to see that now the Skull Island Expedition books are now available on Audible.
Right.
And the collection is growing rapidly to the point where I think, if not all of them, then most of them are certainly there. Cool. So I didn't know which 2 to get first. So I already had Dogs of War. I bought the Dogs of War is like a novella almost. It's like 200 pages. I'd gotten that on my reader, but then I got Dark Convergence and I got Into the Storm. Now Dark Convergence is I finished that already. This is the one where it pits Aurora of the Convergence faction against Nemo of Signar, and This book was an enjoyable read, but I think it would only be an enjoyable read for someone who is a War Machine player. And the reason I say that is that it's clearly designed to introduce the Convergence faction. So, and it centers around Aurora, but it really spends a lot of time. You can tell that there's scenes crafted just to have cameos for the other Warcasters, and there's scenes crafted just to fill in the backstory of why the Convergence is here doing what they're doing. You can tell that also it's designed to show a major battle between two factions, and like pieces of technology are showcased just to showcase them, which as a War Machine player, oh my god, there's a battle engine, but it's kind of like as someone reading a book, I'm like, they didn't really need that scene, but it's cool because it's a battle engine. So I got that stuff. Not the plot's not particularly deep, the dialogue's not really that amazing or anything, but it's a fun read, especially if you're a War Machine player and want to get the backstory. Like Raef, you mentioned, like, does it bother you that the Convergence of Cirrus just shows up in the War Machine universe out of the blue?
Yes.
And they actually don't. Their initial roots are from the Witchfire trilogy, which is actually the RPG that predates War Machine. So what's cool about it is they weave all that into this book, which is also weaved into the Army book as well. But it's all in there, and it explains why they seem to suddenly appear and what they're doing, and actually what their entire plan is all about, and how it is really upsetting the Druids of Orboros as well as Signar and other factions, and it's really neat. So that part was really cool. The overall plot was neat, and to see how they work and to see their war engine described and to see how the technology functions. It was almost kind of like a little bit of a Tom Clancy-ish novel, because you're spending so much time just explaining how the technology works and almost over describing the jacks and everything, because they're trying to explain how it all works.
That's cool.
So a good read for War Machine player. The other book I got, though, which is fantastic, was Into the Storm. Now, Into the Storm is by Larry Correa. Am I saying this right, Craig? Correa.
Yeah.
Larry Correa, who is an established, well-known author.
Very cool.
And narrated by Ray Porter on Audible. And both, Ray is amazing. Great narrator, nails voices, great accents. And Larry's dial right from the opening scene, because I had read Dark Convergence first, right from the opening scene into, so I'm like, oh, this is like a good book that happens to be set in the Iron Kingdoms. And what's great about it is it's a really, really, really good fantasy book that it was also like my head just started exploding less with War Machine images and more Iron Kingdom stuff, because you get into the characters. Right? You have this great scene with just him talking to an Ogren and all these cool, and it's just like, but it's not like even the fact that he's an Ogren from Iron Kingdoms doesn't even enter into it. It's just that it happens to be there. Really great stuff, great dialogue. This would be the book if you like a good fantasy read and you've always wondered about the War Machine background and universe and setting and just wanted to kind of dip your toe into it. I would highly recommend this would be the book to try. Into the Storm, standalone book, great read. It's kind of short, 7 hours, 8 hours in Audible, so that's a little short for Audible, but not too bad.
That is short.
So one other thing, Dark Convergence is the second in the Dogs of War series, so make sure you read the Dogs of War one first if you decide to do that.
Oh, okay.
But yes, Into the Storm, that's the one. Also, get that on Audible, by the way. So, Craig, how do you get Audible books from us?
You go to our website and you click on the Audible logo, and you go there and you get a free book, which is pretty much any book you want, which is a really, really, really
grab
amazing
Into
deal.
the Storm, right? For free.
Exactly. You also get access to all their cool deals for 30 days, and you can cancel at any time.
Yep. And my last thing is I'm playing video games, which is why I'm not painting any models. See, there's my regret there, Raef. And I am almost done with Black Flag. I've fully upgraded my ship. I've captured all the forts. I've completed all naval contracts. I just beat my first legendary ship. There's only 3 left. And then there's the main storyline to finish off, but I'm about 80% through that as well. So I'm hoping to wrap that all up before Titanfall launches next week. So that is all the stuff we've been doing. Is that everything?
That's great.
That's a lot of achievement.
That was crazy. That was
a monster.
I would like to apologize to the listeners for the length of this achievement.
It's embarrassing, really.
It went by fast in my world.
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
Hey, now it's time to talk about our foamy friends over at Battle Foam.
They are foamy.
Craig, I've been on a clean up my house kick lately in the basement.
Oh yeah,
Mostly
yeah.
because,
And what's happened?
Well, Nicole's been giving me the evil eye since my game collection has spilled out of my designated game pen
closet
and is spread out into not only the work area but now into the main. So it's like got to clean this stuff up. So as I'm cleaning things up, I'm just admiring. Like I'm going through this old thing and I'm finding the old bags that I used to use, circa 1990 something. Right?
Oh yes.
Just, and they're thin, they're floppy.
Plastic.
They've been sitting in the back of this closet forever, and they've been partially squished, and they haven't kept their foam, their shape. The foam inside is starting to deteriorate with age. And then look at my battle foam bags. Some of these are like, 3 or 4 years old now. They look as good as the day I got them. And they've been on airplanes. I've battered them around. I use them all the time. Greg, I'm like, it's just worth upgrading the rest of my old stuff. I got to move my miniatures to these bags so they don't get destroyed. So they're just... It's not even a joke. We say this every episode, and I cannot say it often enough. These are literally the best figure transport bags, model transport bags you can get, period.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's go back to basics. Let's just exactly as you say. The foam in these bags came on the scene, and we were all blown away. And little over just a couple years, they completely dominated. And the reason they dominated is because they're awesome.
Exactly right.
They're hard cases. Inside those are superior foam, quite often cut specifically to the exact shape that you need them to be cut to. And of course, that was the good old days. Now you're talking all of these licensed bags with all the cool logos on them and a bunch of Velcro so you can put your own stuff on there. You're talking about foam specifically cut for exactly what you're trying to store in there.
Yeah.
You're all the entire array from the soft bags that are really economic all the way to the bags that you can drive over with an SUV or shoot at them with a hollow point bullet. Right. And they survive. I mean, really, Battle Foam has whatever you need to get your models from point A to point B and survive.
And don't forget, too, you get in the Kickstarter, you start backing some of these really amazing board games with the fantastic components, and you get these things, and you open them up, and you take all the models out, and they're fantastic, and then you get all the stretch goals. There's more models that don't fit in the box that come separately, and like, how am I going to carry this game around? All these models are not going to break and snap, and there's only one place you need to go, Battle Foam, for licensed bags for all the great stuff, including our friends at Soda Pop Miniatures and other great guys out there. I mean, all the miniature war games you'd expect out there, Malifaux, Spartan, Flames of War, Privateer Press.
Don't forget the custom tray creator that you can use to create a tray that will fit any board game. Because there are square in that area. There's all kinds of model specific shapes. There's also generic shapes, ovals, squares, rectangles, circles. You can make anything you want. In fact, I am in the process of designing one right now. I'll tell you a little bit about it later. But it's amazing. There is not a game with models with it that you can't design a tray to fit perfectly.
And don't forget, too, Craig, that's a great point about the shapes inside the tray, but the tray itself can be custom sized as well. You want it to fit exactly inside of a board game box, let's say inside the zombie side box or another game box. No problem. You can do that, too. So head over to battlefoam.com and just check out the amazing options they have for transporting your model safely. And now, what's in the news? Brought to you by all of our great patrons over at Patreon. Folks like Brent and Rob and John and Adam and Cranky and Robert and Jason. Thank you, everyone, at Patreon. And now, the news. We could talk about all the fantastic news stories this week, such as Attack Wing Dungeons & Dragons. That's right. It's not a joke, folks. They've taken the rules from Attack Wing, the ones they licensed for X-Wing. Remember those? And they licensed the rules from the Star Wars Attack Wing. Remember that? The Star Trek. Now they've taken all that and licensed it to Dungeons & Dragons Flying Dragons. What will they think of next? No, we could talk about that, or we could talk about the co-op fantasy game Myth, or we could even talk about the Warriors-like Marvel Avengers dice game. But no, Wakeland wants to talk about some kind of audio review. That's right, baby. Yes, he wants to talk about audio components. Mm-hmm. Really? Yeah, let me near the mic. Okay, without further ado, it's Russ's Rant with Wakeland. Thank you. Here I come. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you, News Guy, for giving me the news this week to do a little Russ's Rant. Not really ranting so much. Well, maybe a little bit of a rant. So anyway, big news is that Titanfall has just released a game that still reminds me a little bit of Virtual On due to the mech speed. That's right, Cyber Troopers. No, it's actually nothing like Cyber Troopers, except the mechs are really fast. But anyway, not here to talk to you about Titanfall. Plenty of reviews about those. No, you see, I discovered that I needed to get a new set of headphones because I like to play Titanfall. My wife is busily writing her blog posts for her various blogs she writes for. And, I need a headset so that she can keep focused and concentrating. And it turned out that coinciding with the release of Titanfall, Microsoft decided to release, finally, the full set of Xbox One headsets. And basically the reason all the headsets were delayed until now is because there's a little missing bit of Microsoft technology to make the headsets work with the Xbox One. So I actually ended up going through 3 of the 4 different currently available licensed headsets. And since I did this and then returned each one as I didn't found them my favorite, I figured I'd share my experiences with you so you can avoid going through the process of buying and returning several headsets until you find your favorite. Now first, probably the most confusing part is that you need to get this new Xbox One audio adapter. Now the good news is that this little adapter that snaps into the bottom of your Xbox One controller, this little adapter comes for free with all of the licensed headsets. You don't need to go buy it separately. The only reason you'd want to buy this little adapter separately, which is about $24 retail, is because if you already have a decent headset, you can plug pretty much any mini jack headset right into the bottom of this adapter and it will work. And in fact, if you have a mini jack headset with a built-in mic that also goes through the same mini jack, that is, you can't have 2 different mini jacks, one for mic and one for audio. It's got to be one together. It'll also plug right here and work as well. So if you've got an old pair of expensive Atlas headsets or something else, those will work. So let me talk a little about the audio adapter. It's a small little black gizmo. Kind of looks like the one that's on the bottom of the Xbox Live little single voice headset, but it's a little bit bigger and it's got several buttons on it. So it snaps into the bottom of your controller, and the buttons on this thing allow you to control the volume, but the cool part is you can push a second button and control the game audio volume independently of the chat audio volume. So let's say you're playing a game that's got co-op campaign mode, and you got those friends that are really cool about talking strategy, but then sometimes they want to tell you about what their dog just ate for dinner right during the cool cutscene that they've seen 5 times but you haven't seen once, and you want to really hear the guys talking. Well, what you can do is you can turn down the audio of your chat and turn up the audio of the game. Pretty slick. Then, when it's time for a tactical mode, maybe the game music's too loud, you can turn down the audio of the game and turn up the chat to make sure you can hear your friends yelling you to get to drop zone 3. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. And it's built into core Xbox functionality now, this little gizmo adapter that you either buy separately and use an old headset or you get for free with one of the new ones. So all of those headsets are going to have the same functionality. And what this means is that all these headsets that are called wireless, they all actually have wires. But they plug into this little adapter at the bottom of your controller, and the controller is still wireless. So you don't have to run a cable from your headset to your stereo or to the back of your Xbox One. It's just a short cable from the headset to your controller. That's pretty nice. Does put a little bit of a drain on the controller battery, but good news for that is most of us hardcore gamers already have rechargers for our controllers. So that means that you don't have to buy extra batteries for your headset, which is kind of nice, and keeps the headsets light. So that's a win. All right, let's talk about the 4 headsets that are currently available. The only one I have not tried is the official licensed Microsoft headset, the one Microsoft actually makes themselves, not licensed, it's Microsoft headset. This one is probably the simplest of the bunch. Kind of looks like a conical black headsets, ear drum thingies there, ear cans, what they call them. And it also has the microphone that nicely folds up into the band on the headband, which is nice, gets out of the way. The nice thing about this headset is I don't actually have it myself, I haven't seen it, but all the reviews I read about it, everybody seems to like it, and it's the most affordable of the bunch at $79. So, if you want the most affordable headset, go for that one. I would have got that one, but I wanted to treat myself. I hadn't got a good headset in a while, so I decided to go for the more expensive headsets. The rest of them are on the $100 to $150 range, depending on the one you pick. So, when I decided to get this thing, I went to Amazon, and I really wanted to get the Polk Audio 4-shot headset. That was my dream headset. First of all, I love Polk Audio. If I have some other stuff, great sound. It had some cool different color choices, so it kind of looked a little unique other than the normal old boring black. And what was really attractive about it was that instead of a wraparound boom mic that gets in your way when you're not doing audio gaming, when you're not doing chat gaming, it gets bumped around. It has this little plastic gizmo that's under the left earphone, and it's normally put away, but you can snap a little button and it just pops down. Now, it doesn't wrap around the front of the microphone. It's just a little tiny opening, and it's basically designed to work kind of like the Bluetooth headsets where it hangs in your ear, so you don't need anything in front of your mouth. I thought this would be really cool. So, got the headset, plugged it in, tried it out. By the way, you do need to update your controller with a firmware update for any of these headsets to work. It's very simple. All the headsets come with It's just a micro USB plug. You plug it in the controller, plug it in the Xbox One. The Xbox says, hey, you ready for an update? Update your controller. It takes 30 seconds. Anyway, so you plug in the headset. The Polk Audio, fantastic sound. Sounded phenomenal. Also, very, very comfortable. The most comfortable of all the headsets I tried. I was in love. Happy as a clam. Very happy customer. Then I got into the game chat. Unfortunately, this really cool mic, because it's so far away from your mouth, does not pick up your voice very well. All my friends online were complaining they could barely hear me, so I was shouting very loud to make sure they could hear me, which of course was annoying my wife, who was trying to get work done. So, unfortunately, as much as I love the Polk Audios, this made me start to look around. So next I'm like, well, okay. And by the way, the Polk Audio headset's $149. So not a cheap headset, but the audio quality was great. Wasn't disappointed in the price, just disappointed in the microphone. So then I went out and I picked up I'm a sucker for anything official. I got the official Titanfall controller because, I only have 2 controls for the Xbox One, and eventually you're going to want to have 4, so you might as well get the cool Titanfall one, right? I mean, why not? So I got that. Then I thought, well, if I got to buy a different headset and I can't get the Polk 4-shot, why don't I get the Turtle Beach Titanfall headset? Because it looks cool. It's got Titanfall on it. Now, here's where you want to be careful. So the Turtle Beach Titanfall headset is essentially a Turtle Beach X04 headset, also a brand new, officially Xbox One headset. Now, the cool thing about the Titanfall and the X04 is they are both designed to work either with the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One. So if you have a 360 still and you want to go back and forth, it's a great headset for that. The X04 and the Titanfall headset are essentially identical in terms of quality of components and quality of audio. Biggest difference, the X04 is $99. The Titanfall headset is $150. Again, you're paying $50 extra, essentially for the cool artwork and the licensing. So, only pay the extra $50 if you're really a hardcore Titanfall fan. Here's the bummer. Audio was good. Not as good as the Polk Audio, but good. Microphone worked great. It's got a hard plastic wraparound microphone. Worked fine. But the shape of the headphone, for some reason, it really clamped onto my head, and it hurt. After about an hour of gameplay, my ears were actually hurting, and no matter how I repositioned the headphone, I still was sore. So, and I play games, in like 3 or 4 hour stints. I had played with the Polk Audio just the night before for 5 hours and hadn't had a single problem. Didn't even remember I was wearing it until I got to go to bed. So definitely X04 the Titanfall headset wasn't working out. The X04 looked to be the same sort of headset, just without the coloring on it. So for me, maybe if you had a smaller head, might be good for you. Didn't like the X04/Titanfall headset. So, which is probably for the best because we're actually really paying $50 extra just for the logo Titanfall on there. So okay, well, my only other real choice at this point is the Turtle Beach X07. This is the top-of-the-line Xbox 360 model. Big letters on the front. Custom designed for the Xbox One model, not the Xbox 360. Custom designed for the Xbox One. Doesn't work with the 360, although I guess you could somehow adapt it, but it doesn't come with any stuff for that. It's just designed for the Xbox One. So, also, better audio drivers, more powerful speakers. Also, it has memory foam into the ear pads, so more comfort. Solid jet black, replaceable little ear cover things, which is just for decorative. You can replace them different colors. Who cares about that part? But they did look pretty cool. So got them. They're also $150. But again, you're paying $50 without the branding. So now you're talking about audio quality that should be on par with the Polk Audio. Got them. Tried them on. Super comfortable. Not quite as comfortable as the Polk Audios, but comfortable enough. Very comfortable. Also, audio quality, outstanding. I might give the nod to the Polk Audios, but it's really close. Hard to say. Audio quality really good on both headsets. And here's the kicker. The microphone on the X07 works fantastically. It's on a little tiny wire. It doesn't get in your way. It's unobtrusive. And also the mics on the Turtle Beaches pop out. They jack in and jack out. So you can remove the mic and put it away someplace safe when you're just using the headset mostly for audio and it's not in your face. But because you can get that mic exactly where you want, the audio sound is perfect. So I'm going to go with the X07. Seems to work the best for me. I have not brought myself to send back in the Polk Audios. I really like how they feel and how they sound. But I can't justify having two $150 headsets. I just can't. So I got to send the Polks back. I wish the microphone was fixed. Now, they are saying there's going to be another firmware update to help out with the microphone issue. But I just don't see it being ever as good as a mic you can get right in front of your mouth. And if you're gaming late at night, you don't want to wake up the whole house. You're going to want to be able to whisper or talk quietly. And the only way you're going to pull that off is with a mic right near your mouth. So there you have it. I would recommend the X07, or if you're looking for an affordable entry, I would recommend, even though I haven't tried it myself, everybody I know that has them likes them, the official Microsoft headset, also for $79, is another great way to get in. And the cheapest way to do this is break out one of your old headsets and pay the $24 for the adapter snap-in thing, and you'd be good to go. All set, Rickland? Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you very much. Well, there you go. And that's What's in the news? Hey, now it's time to talk about our friends at Conquistador Games. Our fine friends at CQGames.com. They have, the new science. Love that game. I talk about it first all the time because it is my favorite of their games. Because I like science. Science is cool, and this game is all about scientists who discover things in the scientific process.
And I saw a new pack for the new science recently at Myriad Games.
Yes, they have that. You can get the little scientist expansions.
Yep, I saw Einstein. I think
Albert. You can add Albert to the collection. Yes. Also, Craig, we got to thank them for all the support they've given us over this. Not only did they sponsor the show now for this is their second year of sponsoring the show, which we really, really appreciate their commitment to helping us out. But also, they're now helping us out for our Adepticon trip, right?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, every year we do the Adepticon board game night. Well, this year, interestingly enough, Adepticon coincides with International Board Game Day.
That's right.
And so Conquistadors really stepped up. So if you're going to be at Adepticon, please feel free to find us because we're going to be playing games probably Saturday and Sunday night.
Oh, yes.
And we are going to be featuring Russ's favorite Conquistador game, the New Science, as well as the one I think is most likely to win Best Conquistador Game of Adepticon based on the personality types that you find at Adepticon. And, of course, that's tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
Where you plan how can you kill off enough of humanity to make the rest of us live comfortable lives.
Yeah, man. I can't wait. I will be happily playing the New Science to anyone who will sit down with me. I love that game. So, come check it out. Come check all this stuff out. And go to CQGames.com.
And, of course, that stands for what? Conquistador!
That's right.
Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, the D6 generation, let me tell you of the days of high podcasting.
Hey, and welcome back. And now, as we're wont to do when Raef is on the show, it is time to have a round table segment.
I love the title.
A round, not Raef's round table, not Craig's round table, just a round.
This is a more generic round table.
Actually, if anything, it's our patrons' round table. Because
that's true.
We have reached out to our friends on Patreon, our supporters over there. We really appreciate all that, guys. And one of the deals is, if you back us over there, we will give you a heads up about what we're going to record and ask for any ideas or what kind of questions you do ask our third chair. And so folks were kind enough, when we said Raef's coming back on the show, to actually throw a few questions out there for us to ask you, Raef Granger.
Yep.
So are you ready, Raef?
I'm ready. So,
Craig, in the style of Luna Voca, please read the first question.
Ooh, I don't know who that is.
Okay, that's the person who asked the question.
Oh, right. Well, that makes sense. I'm not going to insult him by
or her
by
for that matter.
pretending to be him or her.
Right.
But judging from the tone of the posts on the Patreon discussion board, I'm going to assume he's a he. But I don't know. Now you've got me doubting myself. Anyway, Raef, you were our resident expert on comics, and now with you gone on a fairly regular basis, we don't have an expert on comics. So when we get questions, we store them, and Luna Voca has stepped up and would like to know, and I've actually had people ask me about this when the Wild West Exodus comics had started, about digital comics.
Yep.
And so Luna Voca wants to know how you feel about digital comics, if there are popular apps or platforms that you use, what you feel the comic availability is and the convenience, and is it worth doing, and or does the digital version not satisfy, the comic collectible, the comic collector inside you? So sort of what you know about it as a whole, and then how you feel about it personally.
Well, I actually have given this topic a ton of thought, actually. And I don't mean just tonight. But as Russ is probably having his socks blown off right now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I wrote 10 bullet points.
That's a lot of bullets.
In response to this one question.
I know, right?
I never read bullet points.
I scanned the bullets and I was like, I don't remember this question being this long.
Don't worry, it's a 4-hour podcast. Right.
But actually, no, I had given this a lot of thought, and so where I would like to start was I did debate this, and the first reason why I debated this amongst myself is I do enjoy the collection part of the hobby, and to go digital, I thought I would be parsing away a section of myself or going in a direction that I didn't want to go, or as Lunavoco says, like, will it satisfy the completionist in me? So I literally thought about it and didn't do it for probably 6 months. And I asked Ian and I asked Dave and I said, are you guys reading anything digitally? And they're like, I kind of look here and I kind of look here, but no, not really. And I also had loyalty and still have loyalty to Double Midnight. Like, I really felt like, I was collecting. So let me skip to the end. I've gone digital. So let me start back at the beginning. I was collecting about maybe 15 to 20 titles a month.
That's a lot of titles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was really enjoying it.
Where do you store all those things?
Midnight. It's like going to your local game store. Say hi to Brett. Say hi to Chris, the owner's Double Midnight. A couple fans standing around. We talk about whatever we thought was new, the new Walking Dead issue, whatever. How Iron Man the movie was going to be.
The latest My Little Pony comic, right? Whatever.
Well, they did. Actually, that's about the time. About the time when I stopped. Yeah, the Little Pony comics are huge.
Yeah. See,
huge comics. So I had a couple of those in my folder for my daughter, and the artwork, it's not my style, but it was pretty cool. Kids seemed to like it. So I was like, man, if I go digital, I am just going to cut right into my good buddy Brett's pocketbook. And I kind of didn't want to do that. So I didn't do it, and I didn't do it. And then, I don't know, maybe we've all hit this point, or maybe it's just me. I really want to hear from Russ on this too, and then from Craig, because I think Craig holds on to his hobbies more than that. But Russ, I looked in my gamer closet where also my comics are stored, and I couldn't take it anymore. I had plastic bags spilling all over the place, empty ones. I had boards jammed up, and I had probably 3 feet full of comics stored on a shelf that I hadn't yet bagged and boarded.
Yep.
And then I looked in my boxes, and I had 8 long boxes downstairs in my closet, 3 long boxes upstairs, and just filled with comics.
Yeah.
And I suddenly felt full, and I was like, I don't want this. I don't want these comics anymore. I'm literally almost started to have like a panic attack. I just was like, I can't take it. I got to get these out of my life. And I literally took an axe to my paper comic collection, where really cool comics too. Like, how I love Chew, and how I love Walking Dead, and I'm like, nope, in the trade pile. Nope, going on eBay. Nope, going to give to Brett and see if he wants them.
So you had a hoarder's moment.
Yes, I had a hoarder's moment.
Okay.
Yep.
So did you realize at that moment you wanted to replace them though, or were you more like, I just need to you're on your juice cleanse for gaming? More about that later. Were you on a juice cleanse for comic books?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. Although it didn't feel like a juice cleanse, it was more like the hoarder. I like the hoarder aspect. Yeah, okay. It was like I woke up and I was like, I can't have these things in my life anymore. They're weighing me down.
Yeah.
And so it took that moment first for me then to go, okay, I'm going to go digital, because I just don't need to have the paper anymore.
Yep.
And so when that moment happened, I took all the comics I didn't want anymore. I stuck them in long boxes. I put them in the back of my trunk, and I drove them over to Double Midnight Comics and said, here, take them. If you don't want them, donate them to the troops.
Right.
And, give me whatever you think's fair. And like I said, take all the rest and donate them to the troops. And that's what they're doing. So then I was like, okay, where am I going to get my Walking Dead fix? Where am I going to get my Chew fix? Where am I going to get my, Batman fix? And so I looked into Comixology and listened to a couple of podcasts on the subject of going to digital. And Russ, you'll appreciate this. There's a lot of debate about using Comixology, because unless they've changed it in the past 6 months, I haven't listened to a podcast on it in 6 months, Comixology could turn the light switch off to Comixology tomorrow, and I will own nothing. What's that called in the industry when that's the case?
Well, so you have a virtual copy, right, of all the comics?
Yes,
but you don't have a local copy. It's all in the cloud, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So if they turn off their servers one day, you cannot get your copy. Well, unlike some other digital versions where you
Xbox
actually
is not that way, right?
No. So you can download your shows, but you can also stream your shows on Xbox, and iTunes is the same way. You can download every show you buy, or if you buy too many of them, like I do, because it's cheaper for me to buy episodes of television than actually to have a cable subscription. So I buy each episode. So I own like all 8 seasons of Psych, for example. But that would take up like my entire Xbox hard drive if I did that. So instead, they're all just ready to be streamed. I can go back and watch. It's kind of like Netflix, right? But if your Netflix subscription ended tomorrow, you'd lose them. Well, the same is true with Microsoft Live. If I or Xbox Live, even though I've paid for them forever each episode, if I were to end, not if I were to end it, but if Xbox Live were to go away, if Microsoft were to decide not to do it anymore, I would lose all those things. Just like that could happen on iTunes too.
Oh, then Comixology is the same because you can download them.
Yep.
They're stored on my iPad.
Yeah, so there you go.
And if I log in on Craig's iPad, they're there.
Yeah.
I thought Xbox was a little different in that, like, I owned it. You know how, like, if your hard drive crashes, you can...
Well, you do. Like, Audible's the same way, right? So right now on Audible, I bought all these books, and they're all up on Audible, and I own them all. Now, I've downloaded them once, I listened to them, and then I delete them from my device, so I have room for the next book. I own, like, 400 books on Audible right now. And they're mine forever. I don't have to pay another dime. I can stop my Audible subscription. But if Audible, the business, were to go under someday, which is highly unlikely because they're owned by Amazon now, which is, huge. But if it were, for some reason, then I would lose. So there is always that risk. But it seems like more and more people are kind of, if the company's big enough and stable enough, they're kind of okay with this. So it's like I am, for example. Obviously, I buy things on Xbox. I buy things from Amazon.
So with Comixology, I decided, they could all go away, and I can never read the comic again.
Right.
But the reality was, Craig, that I would read my chew. I'd be like, oh, it's awesome. And I would hold it in my hand, and I would look at the thing, and I'd put it in this little baggie and put it in this little board and put the little tape on and go.
And you'd never look at it again.
And I never looked at it again, ever.
So now, is there some advantage to the digital version? I mean, I know when it first came out, there was some coolness because when you read them on the digital version, it would show you at one pane at a time, so you wouldn't actually read ahead.
I actually, if you're a person that would call that an advantage, that's an advantage. I find it to be a disadvantage.
Really?
I think I'm a little old school. I don't like the fact that my iPad screen is a little bit smaller than a regular comic page. So you can set your iPad, and I'm assuming this works for Kindle or anything else, you can set it to sort of 3 viewing styles. You can say, iPad screen, show me the page of the comic as if I was looking at the comic. But of course, Russ, comic is what, 8.5 by 11, and your iPad is 6 by 8?
Right, smaller.
But it shows all the art, but it's a little smaller, and I do notice that. Or you can say, iPad, show me the page as if it was 8.5 by 11. So you then have to sort of move your finger. You can see the first 3 quarters, move your finger, see the bottom 3 quarters. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Or you can set it to say what you just said, panel at a time.
You're right.
Which some people might think is pretty cool, but I don't. But I got used to it pretty good.
It would seem like panel at a time, though, would show them nice and big blown up so you get really good, zoom in on the artwork kind of thing.
Yeah, you can. But it's funny because, as Craig may know from his work with comics, a lot goes into how the artist sets up his panels and his pacing.
Right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I don't like fooling with that. I want to see what Robert...
Actually, the comic book writer sets up the way the panels are, and then the illustrator then arranges it according to what the script calls for.
There you
but
go.
then his artistic input is how to insert it or how to divide it and things like that.
There you go.
And
so
teamwork.
I don't want to mess with that. Like I don't want to mess with what Robert Kirkman thought the pacing of his comic would be. So I keep it the same on a smaller screen, and I do notice it. And that's
it feels
a bit
like
of a
it would lose its pop too when you get to one of those sections of the book, like it's a big fight scene or whatever, and it's a 2-page, one giant panel. And so in a comic book, it's like whoa, but in this, it would look like it would have to zoom all the way out to show it, so it actually would look too small, kind of thing.
Yep.
That makes sense.
So let me go to some more cons.
All right, sure. Yeah.
Some more cons, but here's what's nice when you said there's some advantages. You're lying in bed, your wife's asleep, and you're like, I'm bored. Bloop, click, boom, there's Walking Dead.
Hundreds of comics at your fingertips, right?
I'm like 5 issues behind now because guess what? I've been to the comic store. I'm in my bedroom and I'm like, click, next issue, click, next issue, click, next issue. I'm like, it's freaking awesome.
Yep.
The comics at my fingertips.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And the fact of the matter is all of them are there, too. So, like, if you were in bed and you were reading a comic and you got to the end and you had the next one, you've got to go find the next one, right? Whereas here you got them, the whole, essentially, if you were purely digital, you have your entire collection. Now, let me ask you this, Raef. Is there a price advantage to buying them digitally?
Ooh. Now, that's an interesting question. Are you ready for the answer?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that interesting, Russ? You pay the same price for pulp as you do digital.
Oh, interesting.
Same price. That drives a lot of people nuts.
Yep.
Because they're like, wait a minute. You're not driving trucks to get them to the comic stores. You're not wasting paper. You're not wasting ink and all that. I have to admit, to me, too, I expect a discount. I'm like, where's my digital discount? I mean, when you buy a pulp book, it's $12.99. If you buy a Kindle, it's $7.99, right? Where's the discount? No discount. They do give you a discount over time.
Yep.
So like I said, I'm about 5 to 7 issues behind on the single issues of Walking Dead. Those issues retail for $2.99. I read 3 of them last night. They were on sale for $1.99.
Wow.
So and you'll see like 99-cent specials and all sorts of stuff all the time. So after time, there is a discount, which I don't think happens in a pulp store until after maybe a year or something.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
What else did I have to? Oh, so after I kind of got rid of all my hoard, I started to use the iPad, and it wasn't as, other than the page screen size and other than the weirdness of holding an electronic device versus a paper book, which is a difference.
Yep.
Holding your comic book, to me, even if I'm lying horizontal in my bed, okay, I'm not trying to get weird here, but it has that feeling of I'm sitting in a leather chair, I've got my little sideboard table with me with my scotch or my coffee or my tea, like just holding a paper book for some reason has that happen to me. Holding my iPad, I sort of feel like I'm at work a little bit.
Yep.
So
you're not. So do you find that you miss your comics, or have you adapted to it now and you're like, this is pretty cool?
No, this is also a thing I've thought about a lot. I have adapted to the iPad. I am not going to go back to collecting my paper trades. The only thing I'm collecting in paper trades right now is, or paper comics, is Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, because that's just what I collect. And anything that's kind of unique and original. Mouse Guard. There was a Batman done in black and white, like a bunch of short stories. I'm like, that's kind of unique. That I might like to have that, not just read it again.
Okay.
I'm not going back, and yet at the same time, I miss it. I miss going to Double Midnight to get my pull. I miss like looking inside my bag and going, "Ooh, I've got 30 comics to read." Like, even though I can click a button 30 times, it just feels different. I miss that. I only 50% miss bagging and boarding. I actually achieved that goal where I don't have a big pile of comics staring at me in my gamer closet going, "You have to pay attention to me." Like,
right.
I just cut that out of my brain.
Nice.
But I miss it too, because I'm like, oh, I don't have my things to touch and manipulate and organize.
I get it. Yeah, so the collection part's gone, right? But it sounds like it's a mixed bag. But you don't regret the decision.
It's a mixed bag. That's a perfect way to put it.
Now, do you regret the decision, or are you kind of like, no, this is the right decision for me?
I can tell it's the right decision for me, but a part of me is sad that part of my life is gone.
All right,
but I'm not going back.
Well, let's move on to the next question from our next patron. So,
yes,
Craig, in the style of Robert Oswald, who asked this question, please ask Raef the next question.
I will not do that to Robert. However, I will say that Robert is a big fan of World War II, Raef. And he's a huge fan of Memoir 44 and Axis and Allies, the miniature game, and, of course, the board game. He started playing Duel in the Dark and Duel of the Giants. I've never heard of those either. He likes World War II themes, and he knows that you play Raef, why did you do this to the bullets?
So, Raef,
I must share this with the listeners. Okay, so Robert's got this nice little paragraph.
Yes,
and Russ cut and pasted it into the show notes. And Raef has now answered each sentence individually. So as I read, I'm a big fan of Memoir 44 and Axis and Allies miniatures and board games. Bullet point. Okay. I also started playing Duel in the Dark and Duel of the Giants. Bullet point. Never heard of these.
I have. They're both good.
I like World War II themed games, and I know Raef plays Flames of War. Bullet point. Yup. How is that helping anybody?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Anyway, okay, so Raef, why are you a big fan of World War II? How did that connect with you? And do you play other games, or are you called to other games that are World War II, or is it something about Flames of War rather than the World War II theme that you really enjoy?
Good question. I don't actually know why it's World War II, because as a kid, as you know, Craig, we grew up in the Vietnam era. Like, I remember reading a lot of like fluff dime store novels on Vietnam and Claymore mines and that kind of stuff. And I know Flames of War now has a Vietnam game, but I don't know. I guess my first marriage, my ex's grandfather was a World War II vet, and I would talk to him a lot at family gatherings and stuff. And so I guess I just would learn more of what it was really like. And he was one of those people that wasn't afraid or ashamed or embarrassed to talk about the war. And he would have lots of funny stories too. And so maybe that's what sparked it. I'm not sure, actually. Now, as far as Flames of War versus all the other World War II themed games, we've talked about that kind of before. I mean, Robert, I'm totally happy to answer it again. In that those games were hard for us 40K players to find those quote other European style kind of rule sets for miniature games where maybe the rule set's kind of printed on almost looks like a typewriter typed it, or it has a very simple cover or something like that. We gravitated to Battlefront because it was published in a manner that we were used to, which was to say like 40K. So it had books and it had a website that was easy to read. And so our game group gravitated to Flames of War when it was looking for a different game to play. I also think that we gravitated to Flames of War because our game group is very rules intensive in that they like games that you can win and you can lose. Mm-hmm. Our game group at the time, and I would still argue today, although to some less degree, they're not interested in creating historical recreations in the form of a game. So Flames of War fits that goal of winning and losing or being able to be, quote, competitive, end quote.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's why it was Flames of War for me versus some of the other games that are out there. Because I get a lot of emails like, Raef, have you ever tried this one and that one and this one and that one? And I've had a couple of the rule sets, but other than there's only a couple players I can play that with.
Didn't you play Memoir 44 with Louis for a while?
Yeah, I like Memoir 44. I mean, to me, that's I don't know, beer and pretzels war game.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people though. Like I see a lot of people do play it competitively, and I'm sure we'll get I'll get a bag of emails that says, "Oh, Raef, you're just the base game. You're just scratching the surface. It really can really get quite deep." Maybe like Battlelore can, Mm-hmm. I just don't for whatever reason. So, my wife come in and say hi. So yeah, I mean, to me, Memoir 44 is beer and pretzels, roll some dice, get the theme of it, but I don't think of that when I want to really get immersed into a World War II game. Uh-huh. I do want to talk about the Two Fat Lardies game, though.
Okay. Did you get to try it out yet?
No. I bought one of their games. I think it was called Hain't Been Shot Mum, I think.
Yes, right.
Was what it was called?
I think that sounds familiar to me.
I bought the rule set, but I never had a chance to play it with anybody. I do like what they produce, but I've never had the gumption to actually just get the models and try to get. I'm sure Craig would do it, or Dave would do it, or Don Pirro would do it, or Matt, or I could get one of my World War II game buddies to do it. I just haven't. The other winner for me about Flames of War, and I'm not sure about the Two Fat Lardies games, is actually probably a lot of those other what I'm going to call European World War II games are. You can play them 15 mil, you can play them 35 mil. The whole approach to the game, if you've never looked at them, is very different than a Flames of War. Flames of War, to me, is very akin to what War Machine is like and what 40K is like. You have a codex, you have a set of rules, you apply your codex to the rules, you play your game. The other games are like, okay, we're going to look at, storming the beaches of Normandy. And now the U.S. at this time of the war had a morale of 4, and they just approached the game with a morale, a command element. I don't know. Am I describing it right, Russ? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're saying so. Like it's just very locked into what went on in history, right?
Yeah, not only locked in, but it's not move, shoot, assault.
Right.
I'm used to move, shoot, assault, and the other games are more like command, morale of your troops, what the terrain was like, what the weather was like, what the intelligence you got 5 days before was like,
right. And
now play a battle. And that's cool. It's just very different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, understood.
And my friends are used to. Like, if I approached with one of those games and I was like, okay, guys, we're gonna roll on the table and we're gonna see if we have mud. They'd be like, ugh, are you kidding me? Like, where's my fleet of foot?
That's what makes Flames of War, I think, pretty good. And one of its features is that it's not overly complex, but it's enough meat there to get a good strategy game going. And you feel like you're playing a really. And I also like the scale of it a lot. So you're playing a really big scale game too, which is nice.
Yeah, the scale of Flames of War.
Yeah, because the models are small, so your army feels huge. You got divisions of tanks and things like that driving around.
Well, again, it's that you like army
Right.
scale games, and Flames of War plays at the scale of an army. as opposed to having a giant piece of artillery that's firing the equivalent of 2 football fields away.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of a mile or more, which it should be.
Yep.
Now, Raef, how do you feel about, because Robert asked, and I know that you did dip your big toe in this one, how do you feel about bolt action?
Yeah, I wanted to be a fan of bolt action. I like Osprey Games, who make all the books, or I mean Osprey Publishing, who make the publishing, and then Warlord Games made the game. I couldn't wait. It was $35 million. The models looked pretty good. I bought a whole British army. Andy bought a German army. We played 3-4 games. It uses a different dice mechanic. You kind of reach into a bag of dice, and you kind of have action dice.
Yeah.
You can then have your squads do different things. It had the rule book seemed deep enough to be kind of work like it'd be a good game, but the game in playing it, at least the edition I played, I didn't have any fun at all. The way I would describe it is it felt like at the end of the game I should have just rolled a D6, and on a 4, 5, or 6 Craig won, and on a 1, 2, or 3 I won. Like I can't describe why that's the case.
Did it feel like your choices during the game didn't matter, or
yes,
like
that's
it
right.
was too random?
Yeah, and the rules were written and intended to be a little simpler, but I think because even though I'm not a crunchy rules gamer, I found myself reading the rules to be like, for example, one place where the rules would break down is I have a squad of 10 guys, and let's say I'm going to run from this building, and I'm going to run up 6 inches to this other building. And let's say, Craig, you could have Overwatch.
Right.
So as I'm running between the buildings, you can shoot me, which is very cool. A lot of games I play these days don't have that. So I'm like, well, that's cool. But the rules didn't tell you what to do. So as I'm running across and Craig can go, oh, I'm going to interrupt him and shoot Overwatch. Well, do I stand still and he shoots me there? Do I get to the building and thus I get the cover save? What happens if all the people can't fit behind the building? What if I can move the people? They have enough movement to get around the whole other side of the building and Craig can't see me anymore? Does he still get the shot? Like none of those rules were in there. So I found myself being like, well, what do we do? Mm-hmm. And that broke me out of the experience.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that covers the Flames of War World War II ask there. But then we have a whole different patron, Kevin Smith, Craig.
Yes. And Raef, in his usual intermediate bullet point style, made the obvious jokes about Kevin Smith, the actor and director. So we're just going to leave those on the page where they serve the listening audience best.
Yes, that's right. I agree with that, actually.
And so Kevin wants to know, Raef, how your cult of the new, or I would say cult of the repudiation of the new, is going.
Yes.
Now we're recording this at the tail end of February. Mm-hmm. This was a New Year's resolution.
Yes, the juice cleanse.
Yeah. Yep.
Actually, it started back in December, didn't it? December 7th. December 7th was the goal for you to not play any new games.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a new. No.
Well, we should give him that because then it actually lasted for a duration.
Yeah, that is
not
true.
to have too much foreshadowing or put too fine a point on it.
That's right. Okay, so Raef, how's that going?
Yeah, how's that going for you?
As my bullet point says, it's going great.
Now,
by which
this
definition?
is odd because you admitted that it was a failure and that you'd totally given up on it, but your bullet points indicate that you're only one down, so you're still within striking distance of considering it a mild victory.
Yes.
So explain that to us.
Let me explain. No, there's no time. Let me sum up.
Yeah.
Okay. What I mean is that in my head, which only in the weird place that me and a few other handful of people understand, I'm still achieving the goal that I set out for myself. So here was the goal. I was tired of always playing a new game, learning new rules, and leaving behind in the dust games of old that I liked and didn't play a lot of. For example, I want to say Eclipse. Russ, is Eclipse the game we played multiple times?
Eclipse? Maybe.
No, the game with Jeremy, Turtle, and his wife.
Yes, Eclipse, yes.
Eclipse, okay.
Yeah.
So we played Eclipse. Everybody was like, that was so fun. We just relearned the rules. We should play this again before we forget. Like, that was meeting my goal.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So you played two games.
Playing a game multiple times to become a good strategist.
Now, Eclipse, though, didn't count against you because you'd played Eclipse before at TempleCon 2012.
Correct.
So
But
you
I'm
were,
just
that
saying,
was not
like-
a new game to you anyway. So that was okay.
No, I know, but I meant that was that's what I mean by
Right.
my juice cleanses.
Got it.
Oh, Eclipse. Let's play that multiple times.
Okay, so how do you
When we got
explain-
to the
Yeah,
prediction show,
yeah.
it became something very, and I have no problem with this, it became something very quantifiable for you guys to go, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Well,
so
but-
on that regard, did Russ and Craig win points? Yes.
Yeah.
Because I gave myself a rule to say I'm not going to play any more than 2 new games. That ended in the middle of January.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I already bought Caverna, which I thought was not a new game, and it was a new game. So here's this game I bought, and I'm already 1 game in. So I'm like, well, I'm obviously not going to make it 1 whole game for the whole freaking year. So I'll play Rampage. That was the second game. I'll play Rampage. Oh, prediction over. Russ and Craig get points. And then now we're back to what I think is a success, except for playing Craig, who was like a cute little leprechaun at TempleCon, who was like, play Sails of Glory with me. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is one of those
Actually,
games
Raef,
that I don't want to learn.
To be fair, I was more like, top of the morning to you, Raef. Let's play Sails of Glory now, will ya? Which is why
Exactly.
you thought it
All
was
right, so not to rub it in too much, but I'm going to go to the tape here. So I'm looking at a web page
Uh-huh.
that was written. This is a blog post by someone calling himself Hollywood. It was posted on the website jimmydjango.com on December 9th, a full more than a month prior to the predictions episode being recorded or even being a glimmer in anyone's eye.
Correct.
And it states, what does it mean to me to be getting rid of the No More Cult of the New? It means if a game comes out, let's say on December 7th or after, or it's new to me, I will not play it, period.
Correct.
Right. So I think you had a plan here of not trying anything new and attempt to go through and play your old catalog and really dig into your older games. But I think
No.
you've also tried new games.
No, what I intended and was trying to quantify, just for myself, just
Right.
for fun, to be like, to me it's like this. I'm going to go on a juice cleanse for 30 days. Holy crap, that's like really hard. I can't have pizza? That's insane.
Right.
7 days in, 10 days in. You know what? What the heck? I'm going to have some freaking pizza. What about your juice cleanse for 30 days? Yeah, that didn't work out.
Right. So we're not rationalizing then.
No. I'm not
good.
blaming you guys.
No, not blaming. I'm just rationalizing that there's you're still actually executing your juice cleanse while still playing new games.
Yeah, no. The juice cleanse of not having, like, eating juice for 30 days,
Right.
that's gone. I had pizza.
Okay. So
But
now,
I'm not necessarily doing that thing where I'm like, well, if I've had pizza, I might as well eat steak and cheese for 10 days straight. I'm like, okay, so I had some pizza. Let's try to have a juice cleanse for 5 days.
So what new games? So let's be clear. What new games have you played since your cleanse started?
Rampage, Caverna, because that's a new game.
Yep.
Sails of Glory, which I regret.
Yeah.
Although playing it with Craig was fun.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember.
Russian Rails.
Oh, yes. Thank
Russian
you.
Rails,
Russian.
yep.
Yes, I
Yep,
played
yep.
that game. And
Russian
see, that one broke the rule, too. That game was hard.
Well, it was also
That game was
new.
not easy.
Right. Was it supposed to be easy? Are you only playing new games that are easy? Is that the thing?
Well, that's what I've come around to is to be
okay.
like, okay, I'm going to have a piece of pizza every now and again. Like Rampage,
Yep.
to me, that doesn't break the rule.
Have you played Bang the Dice game yet?
Yes, I played
Okay,
that too.
there's
And
5.
That doesn't break the
There's
rule because
5.
that game's easy.
Yeah. See, so I'm looking back to Jimmy Jagger. I don't see any stipulations about being easy though. So I'm just,
No, there's no
saying.
stipulation in that.
Okay. All right. Just checking. Just want to be clear. I want to be clear about this, so we just are all on the same page.
Raef's definition of success and your definition of success are different.
I'm not saying he's failed or succeeded. I'm just trying to make sure we're all clear about.
Well,
this
I
whole
think
thing.
he's sexy.
Well, he's too sexy for this.
I just
cleanse.
can't wait till I get points for
All right.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, in my UA
Not gonna
Rosenberg
happen.
medieval game.
It's not gonna
Guardians of the
happen.
Galaxy. might
Guardians
work
of the Galaxy is not going to happen.
out. Oh, really? Wow. Craig's
No, it's going to be great. We're going to love it. It's not going to be Iron Man.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
It's not.
Yeah, I think you're
It
probably
doesn't.
right.
It doesn't have one guy who's already famous and really well liked. It doesn't have I mean, it's wacky, weird. There's a raccoon that fires a machine gun.
Yeah.
It's right. That right
I
there.
actually
you're
agree with
gonna lose
Craig.
you're going to lose all your girlfriends.
I am.
on the what is
And
it?
it
Rocket
doesn't
rack?
have Thor's abs either. Now,
No,
what
it's
I was yeah, I'm afraid it's going to be what's the
It's niche. It's
Right,
niche.
right,
It's going to dominate its niche. I don't think it's going to beat Winter Soldier because that's got a an established fan base now.
Right.
So I stand by what I said, or what I think I said. I mean, all these people are like, I went back and listened, and I think you're going to lose, which is fine because I don't know what I said, but I think,
all right,
that for what I remember, I don't think I think I'm going to love Guardians of the Galaxy. It looks awesome.
It looks fun.
And I don't mean to take anything away from the movie.
Right.
I just don't think it has the chemical makeup to break into popular culture the way at large, the way that Iron Man has done.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what Russ was saying too about my Cult of the New. Like people like, but Raef, you said you weren't going to eat any pizza. I'm like, yeah, no, I ate pizza. Well, how could you say it's a success? I'm like, oh, because I learned a lot. I learned that it's really hard to be on juice for 30 days.
I could have told you that.
Raef's looking at life as an after-school special.
Right.
And he's in the moment where the closing credit music has started, and he's reflecting on the lessons that he learned.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, they're like,
That's
yes,
good.
but you didn't do it. No, you're right, I didn't. And then I just move right on from that mentally.
Depending on the time that this after school special was produced, the lesson is either drugs are bad, or the bully wasn't hugged enough as a child and really is a nice guy deep down inside.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
So, Raef, but let's give you this defense. Have you bought any new games?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, Caverna, but I did buy that before.
Before December 7th?
So if we don't count Caverna. Well, I bought Rampage.
You bought, okay. So you
That
bought
goes under the asterisk.
You bought Rampage. You bought Caverna after December 7th, though, right? So you'd already made this pledge.
I had
to
it
yourself.
pre-ordered months and months and months.
Oh,
and months.
okay. All right. That might
Yeah,
count.
pre-ordered, but I don't know when it issued
And
or
then
shipped.
did you buy Bang the dice game?
No.
Okay, you should have.
By the way, I played Bang the card game. I don't know.
Okay, that's old though. So that doesn't count.
And it's
meaning does that count? It's the
no,
same
it's a
game.
different game.
No, it's a different game.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's like saying that you played Space
Cadets and Dice
Space
Duel,
Cadet, and so Dice Duel should count. It's a totally different game.
Different game.
Oh, okay.
But okay, so unfortunately you've bought new games also. So I was going to try to give you something there, but
Yeah, no, it's over.
all right.
It's an episode where we have to give him anything.
Well, good point. Okay. So let me ask you this, Ray. No one asked you about your video games currently, and I would like to probe a little bit there. So
Okay.
So now we talked a little bit in the sort of the beyond the credits last time about your you have been resisting. This kind of dovetails into Cult of the New here. So you've been resisting the Xbox One.
Yes.
Now, how is that resistance going for you right now?
So far, so okay.
Okay.
It's a little hard here. And let's see, Brian Ahern has an Xbox One. You
Yep.
have an Xbox One. Adam Helbling has an Xbox One.
Yeah.
You guys do talk about the cool features of sort of like walking into a room and it plays a movie. And Matt Alex has an Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to hear about like Titanfall, and I'm starting to see the commercials on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been able to get much video gaming in.
Okay.
And I still haven't finished Batman Arkham Asylum. Is that the one that's out?
Yep.
No, Arkham Origins.
Yeah, the new one, right? Yeah,
which is a great one. I have that in the 360. Haven't finished it. And I also been enjoying The Wolf Among Us, which is one of those like choose your own adventure stories, and they're released in episodes.
Oh yeah, right. Yep.
So episode 2 just released.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great time playing that, and I haven't I have the time. It's Saturday, it's 10 o'clock, kids are entertained, I could play till noon, and I'm like, and I forget what I do instead. I think I just
Now, do you
read
play
on Accursed.
Do you play Steam games? Because I know you played some Steam. And stuff.
Oh yeah, the Steam games. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun.
So you've been
with
playing
Steam.
that more than your console, basically.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Steam.
So what games on Steam are you liking?
I've been playing a game that I like. That was I'm playing Prison Architect, which is a sim prison game, and that's a lot of fun. I don't like that it's in beta though. I wished the game's fine. I mean, it's if you bought it, you'd have a super experience. But I think I like games that are done. Because I'm sort of like they'll produce it, they'll do little tweaks, little upgrades, and I'm like, yeah, I just want the end product now. Like I've built my prison, and I'm waiting for the end game.
Yep.
So I haven't played that much. Ooh, I played this game. I played a game called Gone Home.
Oh, yeah, I heard that's pretty good.
Yes.
Haven't tried it myself yet.
That's a Raef game extraordinaire.
Okay.
Very short. Plays only maybe 12, 15 hours. I don't care. I'm not one of those guys that's like, gosh, dang it, I spent $25 and the game didn't last 100 hours.
Right.
I'm entertained. I'm happy. Set in the 80s. No spoilers. Set in the 80s. You're a college girl who comes home from a trip from abroad. you open the door, you're expecting to see your mom and your dad, and you're expecting to see your sister, and they kind of leave a note like, "Oh, honey, find the dinner in the fridge," making this up. We'll be home later, that kind of thing. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? So I found that a really fun,
cool
exploration game. And then there's this new game. I'm drawing a blank on it. It is called not The Wolf Among Us. I'll have to log in the Steam to get it. You play these two lumberjacks, and it's this it's almost like tower defense, but it's not a tower. So you've got this log cabin, and you have to protect the log cabin because your sister's sick. And you can play one of the two lumberjacks, and they have a little bit different powers. Mm-hmm. And you set these traps. So the game's paused. Mm-hmm. And you set these traps, and you can click it. You can see how many werewolves are going to come running through your plot of land from this corner, and then these 3 werewolves from that corner. And there's wolves, and there's werewolves, and there's dire wolves, so they have different strengths. And you have different traps. You have pit traps, snare traps, fire traps. You have these different traps. And you have these resources to be able to build the traps. So you sort of set this tower defense up. Then you set play, and then it's like an action game. You have an axe, and you have a gun.
Oh, cool.
So while the traps are going off, if some of the wolves get through, you can shoot the wolves or do your axe with the wolves.
Cool.
It's kind of a neat combo.
That sounds pretty neat.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll
cool.
think of the name of that.
So any other before we wrap up here? Is there any other things you're doing right now, geeky goodness that the listeners should know about? Not recently
I really
played.
think they should do Gone Home.
Gone Home, yeah. All right.
I'm trying to think games that I think they should do. Yeah, when I find the name of this, when I look up the name of this game on Steam, they should play that because I think that's fun.
All right, cool. Ooh, by the way, guys, I had a mental block, but Guardians of the Galaxy, I was trying to compare it to another movie that I thought was awesome but did poorly, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I really
didn't do so good?
I loved Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It's also a comic book movie. I like the whole thing about that, and it did not so hot at the box office. But all the geeks loved it. So,
right.
or at least most
I
know.
think it's going to I think it's going to
that.
do better than that because I think it's got more appeal than that. I enjoyed Scott Pilgrim. I didn't think it was great, but I enjoyed it. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is going to have more universal appeal in the geek community.
Yeah.
I just don't I think things like the walking tree and the raccoon with a machine gun are going to they're going to just hit all the wrong switches.
Oh, my daughter likes raccoons, so this could be a win for her.
Your entire family doesn't count. So
I think we're going to be the ones that like this one.
No offense, Russ. You have a lovely family. They do not count as mainstream.
No, we're going to love this movie, and we're going to hate the Hobbit.
It's going to be a giant Exactly. Yes. Well, that's different, but yeah.
Ross, what game do you think is out there that people should be playing?
Oh, well, if you two things. I want to ask you this too, Raef. Are you resisting Thief?
Oh, I did see Thief, but I can still get Thief for the 360.
Right. Yeah, not so much platform based. Just are you resisting it for your 360? Or are you going to get it?
I will get it at some point. I'm not going to rush right out and get it right now.
It doesn't. Something about Thief I am worried about. Something about the trailers. Now the original Thief was a fantastic game, and there's been several ones after that were not so good. So I was kind of excited for the reboot. And of course, the Lara Croft reboot, as you both talked about, was amazing. And by the way, the definitive edition, if you have not played the Lara Croft reboot that came out at the beginning of last year, and you have an Xbox One or a PS4, what you want to get is the definitive edition, which just came out, and they redid all the models, and they're all like super same story. So there's no new content in there for someone who's played it before, but fantastic, and is generally being hailed as the best game currently on those platforms.
Are you getting all sorts of cool updates? Because I see that on Steam.
It's on.
I don't own it on Steam, but it seems like there's lots of downloadable packs.
Yeah, there's DLC on the regular Xbox version too. Yep. But I would say I like Assassin's Creed Black Flag a lot. If you like pirates, you should be playing this game pretty much.
Yeah, I wondered about that. How much ship combat and ship stuff is there?
Lots.
Yeah, that's why I didn't get it.
You're a pirate, so I would hope to be lots of ship combat.
Yeah.
And there is lots. And you get to upgrade your ships. That's the best part. Like, you go from this little ragtag
you're a big
ship.
pirate ship guy.
Oh, yes. Now, one of the abstraction there, if you're a hardcore naval guy, the direction of the wind does not matter. It's just, they just abstracted it right out so that, it's think of it like this. There's arcadey flight sims. This is an arcadey naval combat game. So you're just like, push joystick to the left, your ship turns left. You can go fast, slow, or stop. But the way the broadsides work and everything is a lot of fun. and the damage, and the fact you can just pull right up and do a boarding action without cutting to the boarding scene, like in the old Sid Meier's Pirates. It's all just fluid, scene to scene. Is awesome.
What are you playing on Steam?
On Steam, I just tried a game called The Outcasts.
Oh.
Which is another one of these games that you're technically getting an early trial, so it's not really finished, which I'm starting to not like. I'm like you on this because...
Oh, you're like me on that.
You're paying for it. Like, it was $20, which is a lot for a game when it's not finished. Now, it's going to be finished someday, but the problem is you sort of see all these bugs and stuff and you're trying to forgive it, but at the same time you're like, there's so many games that are done. Why am I doing this?
That's how I feel.
But it's a neat idea. So it's called The Outcast because it's kind of like Australia in that you've been kicked out of your country. You are all criminals. Sorry, Australia, just saying. And you've been kicked out of your country, and you've got to build your own society from the ground up. So it's really
cool.
It's really a city building game, but the time period it's set in is like the olden settler pilgrimage time. So you got your log cabins and your stuff like that, and then you have hunters, and you start building it up. So it's kind of like what you're talking about, Raef, for that survive game where you have to find food and eat food and do all that. Well, you're doing that for your city. So your citizens, you start a bunch of citizens, they're all happy because they don't have houses. So you build them houses and the rain's coming down. You build them some houses. Now they're happy, but you need you need some crops. No one's really figuring it out. So you got to get a schoolhouse and blah, blah, blah. You do all that going on. But then natural disasters. It's kind of like Sim City, the olden times.
Really. Ooh, that sounds awesome.
Pretty cool. I'm liking it. But you can tell it's not finished. That's the only downer on it, but I'm really enjoying it. But the game to get. Without a doubt, I played the Titanfall beta came out, and
on Xbox One.
On
right?
Xbox One, yeah, it was Xbox One and also on PC. And the wow, just blew me away.
What is it? You're in a mech?
So here's the thing. So it's a first person shooter, right?
Yep.
So and there's no single player experience. It's always online, always multiplayer. That's not to say there's not a campaign mode of the story. It's just that it's always online, always multiplayer. 6-on-6, but there's also AI-controlled armies going around. So you'd feel like there's a whole army fighting. You're a guy in a suit with jump jets, right? I mean, not in a mech. Just in your suit. And you got different guns. You have two primary guns, and you got grenades. And so you're running around. It's really fast-paced. So you're running, you hit the jump button, your jump jet fires. You hit a wall, you run along the wall, you can tap the button again, jump over to the other wall, and then you can flip in the air and land. So you think about all that's very, very fast. It's not like Halo where you feel kind of slow, very, very quick. But then, as the battle progresses, you can call in your Titan. So when you call in your Titan from orbit, a giant mech drops out of the sky and lands wherever you pointed when you wanted to call your Titan in. When he lands, he then is AI controlled, and he can follow you around like a robot, right? So you can be like, follow me, guard here, and he does all that stuff, and he's got huge guns, he's giant, he's like, think of like a mech warrior thing, but think of a agile, fast, anime-style mech, not slow, clunky Battletech mech, so super fast dude. But then when you get near him, you can hit the X button, and he will reach down with his hand, pick you up, his chest plate opens, and he puts you inside, and it's all fluid graphics, it's like no cutscene.
That's cool.
And then it lights up, and now you're looking at the mech, because he's got like external cameras, so it looks like you're in first-person mode controlling the mech. And the mech can run around. He's got like sliding jump jets. He's got all those little abilities on him. There's different kinds of mechs in the game. But then, your mech's about to die, so you hit the eject button, and you watch your pilot like punch out of the mech. But there's all this cool stuff like when you're beating up an enemy mech, and there's melee attacks too, if he's near death, I can actually punch through the chest plate, grab the pilot, rip him out, and smash him into a building, Or,
neat.
Or if you're really close, like I had this happen to me once, where the two bad guy mechs were punching me, so I ejected out. As I'm ejecting out, the first mech grabs me out of the sky, tosses me in the air. The second mech backhands me across the thing and smashes me through a window. It's just like really cool, just gory, awesome death scenes of awesomeness.
So is this like the Halo of Xbox 360?
So yeah, so this is by the name of the company is Respawn Entertainment. Now, it's an interesting name because Respawn, of course, means to come back from the dead in a video game, right? They used to be Infinity Ward when they were bought by Activision. A lot of the founders left the company and gone. Well, they all went to Respawn. So this, and Call of Duty, of course, is probably one of arguably the great online, first shooter games. So these guys, the guys that invented Call of Duty, the original one, the really, really good one, are now back and they've invented Titanfall. But some of the other cool stuff and some of the reasons that Penny Arcade are saying things like, hey, we've got the second generation of machines and now Titanfall represents second generation thinking. There's some really cool mental stuff in this game. Like, for example, when you lose, so you're fighting to get normal, and there's different kinds of objectives. Some of the objectives like capture these points on the map. Some of them are just like kill more bad guys than they kill of you. Different objectives, right? When you win or lose the objective, you've won. But then the game doesn't end. It goes to an epilogue mode where the losing guys have to retreat to their dropships. And the dropship comes out of the sky, and you got to get to that point, get on the dropship, and it flies you away. The winning team must try to stop you. And if they stop you, they get bonus points. And if you get away, you get bonus experience points. And just like Call of Duty, there's all kinds of experience points you get. You can upgrade how you look. You can upgrade your equipment, your guns, and stuff on your Titans, all this stuff. So what's cool about that, though, is even though you lose this game, if you're the victor and you stomp your opponent and they still get away in the dropship, you're like, oh, they got away. And if you are losing the game but you still get away in the dropship, you feel like, yay, I got out. So there's like this other secondary victory, and it makes it a Pyrrhic. Or it's just like little things like that really add a lot of depth to the game.
That's
it's really cool
Giving
stuff.
A new game experience.
Yeah, it's totally. It's I don't know. It's just really fun. So I like it a lot. And then the other thing that's really interesting about it is the campaign mode is set up such that you play, and then there's. Now, we haven't played the beta, didn't have the campaign mode, but this is what they're telling us. Is that you play a campaign and there's a story. So you get in the story, you play mission 1, it's you and whoever friends are online with you, plus whatever random people are against you. If you win, your squad of 6 guys advances to the next round. If you lose, you stay in that round, but you switch sides, and the team that just beat you advances on, so you don't keep getting punished by the same team. They advance on, and now some other noob team comes in, and eventually you're going to beat somebody, and then you move to the next round also. So it's kind of like multiplayer, but with a story, which is sort of interesting too. So these games though, like Call of Duty and Halo, they have stories, but these games live in their multiplayer mode, and this is that. This is really, at its essence, it's a multiplayer, really awesome multiplayer game, but it does have an interesting take on the storytelling experience too. So I think it's fantastic. It's definitely going to be the killer app. It's the reason people are going to buy Xbox Ones. There's already Xbox One deals out there now that are the same price as the console was back in November, but now include Titanfall for free.
I've noticed that.
So basically, that's your price cut, Raef, you're looking for. You can get Titanfall for free now. But yeah, so I think it's going to be a killer app, and it's going to be the.
Did you hear that noise, Russ?
Yeah, what's that?
That was Craig. He just fell over asleep.
My head hit the mic. Actually,
we should probably wrap it up because. That's our round table. We've gone around the table, and now I'm talking too much. So
wait.
Well, the thing is that Russ can't talk video games with me, so he's like,
I know.
oh my God, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly, right.
And I'm sure the listeners, many of them, at least 10, are very appreciative.
No, Russ, we get at least 100 tweets in a minute about when we talk video games.
People do like the video games. That's okay. So
right,
but
I found the name of the game, and I still have one more question on Steam.
Okay.
The name of the game that I was talking about is called Sang Freud Tales of Werewolves.
Oh, there's a name.
This is a game that if Craig had PC gaming that he played, he would play it.
All right.
Now, my next and last question on the Steam games is, have you seen, because our Sherpa bought in on this game early, have you seen the game called The Mighty Quest for Epic Loot?
I have not.
I would like the listeners to check it out on Steam and see what they think. It seems to be Diablo-esque.
Yeah.
But like goofy and spawny. Excuse me, goofy and tower defense-y.
Okay.
I want to know your opinion on that.
There you go. The Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. Alrighty, so there you have it. So up next, we're going to talk about Savage Worlds and Accursed.
State of the Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
And Accursed.
Stay tuned.
After our game reviews, you'll feel like you played the game 100 times. After our interviews, you'll feel like you've known some of the biggest names in the gaming industry for years. After a single episode, you'll feel like the time just flew by. And once the headache clears, you'll know you'll never need another gaming podcast again.
The D6 generation, born to game.
Hey, and now it's time to talk about our friends at War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy Magazine.
That's right. You cannot get a cooler War Games magazine, especially if you're into history. But I mean, come on, no matter what you're into, War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy is awesome.
They've got cool miniatures on the cover here that I never even knew existed. Like, they're doing a whole thing on the New World now. Struggles of the Europeans
the
taking
latest issue, which is 71.
Yeah.
The theme is Struggle for the New World, the European Conquest for Riches. And you're right. These models of course, every issue has a diorama on the front. Mm-hmm. And this one is some sort of the Europeans are attacking the Aztecs or some such. And, There's a guy, I don't know, what is that? Is that a pig head helmet he's wearing?
I think
and
so.
Of course, there's
They're awesome.
jaguar skins
Yeah.
and all kinds of feathers. I mean, it's really, really amazing stuff. And I just have to take a moment to talk about the smell of the magazine, because when you open that bag and you open it, it smells awesome. But anyway, I mean, the best quality paper around, the best images and pictures and photos. Just everything is top notch. And this time around, of course, you've got the theme, which is Conquest of the New World. But just looking at the table of contents, you've Conquest of the New World. I can't pronounce any of this
It's best
stuff.
not to.
The skulking practice of war in search of El Dorado. Ooh, that's bloodshed in New England. That's cool.
Yeah. The halls of-
I mean, all kinds of craziness. But lest you think that that's all there is in any issue,
Right.
there's a whole bunch of other stuff. In fact, this one has an entire game for steampunk.
Exactly right.
It's very cool
It
stuff.
really is amazing. And if you're a modeler or just someone who hopes to be a modeler someday, you just got to look through this magazine and be in awe of the awesome paint jobs, the even great articles too. The psychology of painting larger forces, painting big armies. How do you get through the whole process of painting, armies that have 40, 50, 100 or more models in them? How do you get through that process?
Yeah.
It's all in here in this fantastic magazine. So head on over to WSSmagazine.com.
And I'm not done talking.
Oh, geez, he's still going,
No,
folks.
I just want to say for a second, they are not beholden to any one company.
No, right.
And so what you're looking at is book reviews of all the different companies out there. You're looking at advertisements from every company, and they know that they're in a magazine where they're competing. So these are flashy. They've got 100, they've got one scale, 1-to-1 scale pictures of their models. I mean, and from all different lines. It really is a great one-stop place to look at all the things that are going on in wargaming at any given time.
So that, again, is WSSmagazine.com, and make sure you put in the code D6G to save 15% on subscriptions or back issues.
15%, that's a lot.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. This week's shout out goes to all of our supporters over at Patreon. Thank you for your support. You can find out more if you would like to support the show at patreon.com/the D6Generation. Well, this is March, and today happens to be St. Patrick's Day. But before St. Patrick's Day, there was a holiday that was considerably bigger, I would say, or more important for geeks. Now, I'm Irish, and I still say this. This holiday would have been on March 14th, and that holiday would be, and you should all know this, Pi Day. Not Pi, P-I-E, but Pi, P-I, the 3.14159. I may have messed that up, but you know what I'm talking about. And on Pi Day, I, generally speaking, bake a pie. It could be any kind of pie, but I bake one from scratch, with a crust from scratch. And then I put a little pie crust pie symbol on top of my pie, turning it into a pie, which I make every year on Pie Day, and occasionally I do it with blueberry pies and everything else during the summer because pie is cool and it's just fun to say. But this year, somehow, Pie Day snuck up on me, despite the fact that it is always March 14th, and that March 14th still came after the 13th, just like it always does. I somehow just sort of lost track of things and was completely unprepared to bake the pie this year. So for Pie Day, I did nothing. I completely, utterly, totally failed in my responsibilities as a geek and a parent and did not celebrate Pi Day because, math. I should share this with my kids. So really, parenting fail as well as nerd fail. Now, I thought about maybe busting out the baking stuff and making a pie on the 15th, but that felt a little bit like cheating, like you could pretend that Santa Claus was coming down the chimney on the 26th because you somehow weren't ready on Christmas Day. Nope, you can't do it. Pie Day comes but once a year, and Pie Day came and went without me acknowledging it at all. So now I'm going to sit here feeling guilty until next year, at which time I'll probably have to bake several pies, maybe one for Russ and one for each of the girls, and they're choosing to make up for the fact that I did not create a pie this year. But As I mentioned, today is St. Patrick's Day, and to make up for my parenting fail, I will tell you there is a volume of green in this house right now that kind of makes a leprechaun look like it's taken up residence here. And by the time Easter gets here, there are going to be so many cute little bunnies and chicks and pastel Easter decorations, these kids aren't going to know what hit them.
Hey folks, and now it's time for us to talk to our friends about our friends over at miniaturemarket.com.
Well, Craig, the listeners are also our friends, so we can talk about our friends, the listeners, and tell them about our friends at Miniature Market.
That's true. Why don't we do that?
And there's no S.
First
it's
of all,
Miniature Market without an S, which is weird, but it's true.
It's true. Miniature Market. Like
Miniature
it's a market in miniature.
Yes, exactly.
What are we looking at today, Russ? Well, we're looking at the HeroClix Captain America Winter Soldier stuff is coming out.
Right? Winter Soldier clicks? Come on now. That's awesome.
Super Dungeon Explore promos. Yep. Now, this is a cool thing about Miniature Market that I think is awesome, is that they've got all these promos stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, where are you going to get it? You're going to get it at Miniature Market.
Yeah.
I myself got one just this week for, what did I get it for? Crossmaster Arena, actually.
Yeah, right.
I went and jumped down there for a promo. Got it way cheaper than anywhere like, I don't know, eBay, let's say.
Right.
I mean, really, all kinds of cool stuff. They've got all kinds of board game stuff, all these new board games that everybody's so excited about. X-Wing pre-orders. I mean, and of course, by the time you're listening to this, you're like, X what? But, that's okay. Right now, it's a really cool game.
Well, that's the thing to keep an eye on. So you want to go to their website pretty frequently because they got that deal of the day on the left-hand side that Craig was hinting at.
Yeah.
And it's different. I won't even tell you what it is, but by the time you hear this, it's already something else. It's like they got a certain X number. They're in for crazy, crazy cheap. Sometimes they're old stuff that's you're looking for, and it's on eBay really expensive, and it's here cheap. Or sometimes it's new hotness. And it's just there, and it's a deal. So you definitely want to check that out as well. Don't forget also they're opening a brand new headquarters. Massively awesome picture of this new location. Just shows you how organized, how the amazing just rows and rows of games.
Yeah, that's a lot of games.
And the thing, too, is these guys, their name is Miniature Market, but they got so much more than miniatures. Every board game you'll need, every role-playing game, collectible card games. It's all really well organized, easy to find, fantastic pricing. They've got it all. And don't forget also, when you head on over there, go to their Facebook page and check for the D6G logo. Click that for savings as well. So head on over to miniaturemarket.com.
Wow!
I'm Raef, Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. Welcome to another edition of the Hollywood Minute. I'm your host, Raef, Hollywood Granger. Well, we finally have broken through the winter ice and snow. Don't get me wrong, there's still tons of snow on the ground, but the temperatures have been around in the 40s, and so that's making it a little more bearable when you go outside so that you don't freeze right down to your spine. Now, don't get me wrong, it was like in 20s just 4 days ago, but it's nice to have a little breath of sun and some heat, and that's the Hollywood weather report for you. Now, in this episode, it's all Hollywood, so I'm going to continue along talking about my comics situation / addiction / comics. Now, granted, this is being recorded just a tad bit later in time in the D6G time vortex machine. So a little bit maybe repeat. I apologize for that. I don't think it will be. There were some specific things I wanted to get to in the main show, and in order not to peg the needle too far into the talking too much column on the main show, I had taken some notes down. So one of them was the emotional torment that I put myself through in having to decide between Comixology or any of the online apps and Double Midnight Comics, which I'm a huge supporter of. And so what you see is a blend of both. And it was funny because after I recorded the main show, I had an opportunity to go into Double Midnight, talk to Chris Prue, one of the owners, and we were talking about the challenge of wanting to own comics and buy comics online and the ease and easeability that brings and in paper. Now, that being said, I dropped about a good $80 worth to get my Spider-Man fix, my Batman Black and White fix. And there was a bunch of Spider-Man because there was a 6-issue Amazing Spider-Man, which is going on during the same time as Spectacular Spider-Man, which were kind of these stories that they wanted to tell, but didn't have a fit in the main storyline, so it gave Marvel a chance to tell these stories. And, of course, sell Amazing Spider-Man comics, don't get me wrong. I'm never that far away from understanding Marvel loves to reproduce number ones. Well, any comic company, well, I shouldn't say any, but any of the big two, Marvel and DC, love to reboot and reconnect and make another number one. And I get that money-making machine. But that being said, I guess my point is that I liked having an opportunity to go in and pick up my pull. It was a good, I would say, probably 90-day pull. So I felt that was a very reasonable amount. And it's important to me that comic stores exist. You know, if I feel if I buy everything online, then I won't have the opportunity to come in and talk to a comic purveyor, a comic store proprietor. I won't be able to have my comics pulled for me. And I'll lose out. There won't be places to buy the action figures or toys, which they also fully support. You know, and I was talking to Chris about that, and they're not exactly worried about online. They're not doom and gloom type of people. They recognize it's out there. They recognize it's a different revenue stream. There's even some talk I heard of online proprietors of comics, you know, connecting with local stores to create a connection there, a monetary connection there in some fashion. But, you know, again, it's just like if you buy all your gaming materials from an online store, then don't be upset when you look around and your local game store doesn't have any table space for you to play, right? Because you've got to buy from them or at least have a membership in order to support them to want to have a store with you with tables and gaming space and lights to play and all that. So, but then on the other hand, it's been really fun to be able to, like, I was listening to a podcast about comics. It's called Comic Dorks. It's done by Scott Johnson, the same guy who does the Instance podcast, and they do it about once a month. And I heard about Afterlife with Archie, and I thought, man, and they were raving about it, and I was like, you know, that's never a comic I would really pick up. And so it was really cool to be able to, that night, not travel anywhere, log into Comixology and download the comic. And it was a happy purchase, so I recommend that to anybody out there. Afterlife Archie, I think it's called. And so it's just, I don't know, I'm in a weird meld where I'm reading my Batman Black and White comics in paper, and I'm really glad, and I think it's because I'm glad that I'm being able to own them. I'm looking forward to putting them in their backer boards and just storing them and having them. Would I be just as happy with them online? I don't know. I don't think I would. There's some comics that I seem to must have and hold, and there's others that I'm totally okay with. And what's weird is it has nothing to do with the popularity of the comic. Like this is going to sound really funny, but my Walking Dead comics, I'm totally fine with them being online. Mainly because I know I own the trades, and so I can go back and read them in trade format. But my Chew comics, when I read them online, I miss having the paper comic. I can't explain it. And it's not like I think Chew is more popular than Walking Dead. It's not. Maybe because I think it's unique and special, and so I want to actually have a paper copy of it. I can't tell. Now, I haven't gone back and added it, so I'm not sure. Of course, my Mouse Guard comics, I like those to be pulp, especially the trades. So I think I'm leaning towards if something is super special to me that I feel like I would want to put it on a shelf, then I'm going to collect it in paper. If it's something that I'm just super interested in reading and may even want to have ease ability to go back and read, like The Walking Dead's, then I'm going to collect those in electronic form. And I think what I'm going to do is comics that I know that I'd like to loan out to friends or to read again with coffee and enjoy the pulp experience. I'm going to own the trades. Like, I'm going to own the trades in The Walking Dead. I still have my trades in Punisher Max, which I still reread. I still read my Batman trades. So I think that's how I'm going to go there, and that'll also support both hobbies, I guess. It doesn't bother me that the electronic copy is the same price right when it comes out. As a matter of fact, since I sometimes go in spurts, like I'm in a huge comic reading spurt right now, I actually get the benefit of a savings because the comic will be $1 off or so. That's pretty cool. Like a lot of my Chew comics, I was behind Chew by about 5-6 issues, and they were $1 off except for the most recent 2. So that was really fun. So let's talk about titles I've been reading. So like I said, Afterlife Archie, I highly recommend that. It is not, it's obviously a spoof of a zombie apocalypse in the Archie world, but the comic's written in such a way that they do it right. And it makes you want to read more, and it's funny, and at the same time, it's like, what are they doing? And very well done. I highly recommend that. Again, I recommend the Black and White Batman. It's called Batman Black and White, done by a variety of artists. Some of the art styles I cannot stand. Some of the storylines, I'm just like, this is awful. But I love the fact that other writers and other artists are taking their stabs at this, and I love the fact that it's different, and even I like it even if it doesn't jive with me, the art style. I don't care. And they take really interesting takes on Bruce Wayne and Batman and Robin, and it's super cool, and it's all in black and white. So again, I highly recommend that. Achu, again, is just fabulous. Where they go with this idea of their universe where poultry has been outlawed due to the avian bird flu making the public ill. And then all of these characters and people that you meet, they have a lot of them out. Their superpower has to do with food. And then you've got the controlling character of Tony Chu and, his relationship with the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, Food and Drug Administration, which is just hilarious. And, again, it's just the art style is fantastic and the writing is funny, and the writing is really funny. Like, I can't do it justice, but the most recent comics, one of the characters is in federal prison, and they kind of say, federal maximum, super maximum FDA secured prison, otherwise known as the Can. And then it says in a super desolate part of the country, and then a little asterisk, and then it says Kansas. And I don't know, to me that's just hilarious. And then there's like funny posters on the back. So again, I can't stop talking about you. That's just such a great read. And my last great read, which I super highly recommend, this was recommended to me by my good friend and game purveyor, Doc, and that is Love and Capes. And that comic takes you on a romantic situational comedy situation where what does a superhero do when he is not being a superhero and has a relationship. So it's a good light read. Highly recommend it. I've been buying those trades, and I've been buying those on Comixology, and so those are my additional comic thoughts for now. So I guess in sum, I'm going to say that for me, I think it's a combination of buying pulp so that good comic stores can remain in business, and a good combination of buying electronically because I like the easeability of it, and I like the fact that I don't have piles of comics that I'm really not interested in still having. So I guess that's it for me. If you want to keep it and have it, buy it in pulp, or if it's special to you, buy it in pulp. And if you just want to read it because the storyline is awesome, buy it electronically. And you don't want to keep it. So that's my 2 cents. Until next time, this is Hollywood signing off. You can reach me on the D6G Hollywood on Twitter, or my blog, which is randomly updated on jimmydjango.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's time for us to talk about our friends over at Game Salute.
That's right. The boys at Game Salute, and girls and ladies, everyone over there do a fantastic job of not only getting the games published, getting them out the door, supporting stores, supporting just about everyone. It's fantastic. And what they do is these are the guys that know exactly how to go through the entire Kickstarter process and get your dream of getting a game out there into the hands of the people. And if you're one of the people who just wants to play games, they're the guys to go to make sure if you're looking into Kickstarter, you see that Game Salute logo, you know it is going to be on time, it's going to be a great quality product, and it's going to get there, and it's going to be fully funded. Because what's going to happen is they're going to make sure, when I say fully funded, I mean sometimes these Kickstarters happen, right? And poor people, they get a great idea, they think they're doing great, they make lots of money, but they forget to factor in the cost of shipping, they forget to factor in the cost of manufacturing, all these crazy things, and all of a sudden, they're literally losing their houses, they're losing their shirts just to fill the Kickstarter. Even though they made tens of thousands of dollars in the Kickstarter, they lost all that money because it cost them much more than they thought. So Game Salute will be there to help these publishers to make sure they price everything properly and get it out there. Still affordable, but great stuff. Craig, have you looked at the GameSalute.com website lately?
I'm looking at it right now, Russ, and I'm telling you, of course, that with all their help with the Kickstarters and all of the other game publication that they've been doing, they've got a lot of know-how. They've got a huge brain trust, if you will, on how to get this stuff rolling. No pun intended, because they've put it all together in a little feature on their website called The Life and Times of a Board Game, which is awesome. It is basically an overview of exactly how a board game goes from concept to worldwide release.
Exactly.
And it's very cool because they've broken it down by die types and time. For instance, the concept phase is 1d20 minutes. Design and development is 1d4 years.
Nice.
So on and so on. So it's just a very cool little thing. In addition to all of the games you can go to gamesalute.com and look at. You can submit your idea for games. I mean, you are really talking about an enormous website with a huge number of games that they've already got.
Yep.
Plus pre-orders, plus stores that they have now connected to their enormous world-spanning empire.
I had a blast.
It really is a nexus.
It is. I just played Keyflower, one of their great games. Fantastic time with that game. And this game, right now on Kickstarter, even as we speak, Area 1851. Have you seen this? It is crazy.
Yes.
Okay, it's Cowboys and Indians just got alien. And it's think of Area 51, but now it's back in cowboy times. And the artwork on these cards, Craig, is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Just great looking stuff. You just scroll on the Kickstarter here. I love the art style. I love the things. I guess one of the cards is that there causes pregnancy, and it's got like a shaker looking man with a big fat belly. Just good stuff. So check it out now. Make sure you head on over to Gamesalute.com and check out all the latest hotness. That is Gamesalute.com. Oh, and don't forget, if you go to their store, make sure you put the code in to get some savings. And that code, this episode's secret code is D6G143.
Yes, and we challenge you to figure out the key to the code.
Oh, it's clever. It's clever. All right. Gamesalute.com.
Worlds to conquer, foes to vanquish, violence to sow, and medieval crops to reap. The whole world of gaming at your fingertips. The D6 generation. Born to game.
Hey, so welcome back. So now it's time to talk about Savage Worlds. Now, before we start, we should point out that longtime listeners will remember that in episode 97, we gave a full and detailed review of the Savage Worlds system and its mechanics.
Right.
So that's not our goal here today. Our goal today is to kind of give you an update on how Raef and Craig have been using the Savage Worlds setting, the system, right? Mm-hmm. But also, you guys got a chance to play a mega game of Accursed, the new Savage Worlds setting from our friend Ross Watson and his comrades, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about that. So, Raef, without further ado, Raef, what have you been doing with Savage Worlds lately?
Yeah, now I'm really excited about this because this is a Craig and Raef combo. So Russ now gets to be put to sleep.
Yeah, I'm going to nap.
As Raef and Craig wax poetic about RPGs. Now, like Russ said, this is not the full detailed review of Savage Worlds. So we're going to do this Raef style. And what this is intended, my goal, is to go through these real quick, hand a baton off to Craig, and Craig's going to talk about the details of Accursed. But this is in case you're just stepping into this episode and don't quite know much about role-playing games or much about Savage Worlds. This will whet your appetite and give you some knowledge to understand what Craig gets into there. I'd like to start by saying that I have chosen to run my current Dark Heresy campaign. It's a 6-episode campaign. We're about to do episode 3 coming up. And I was very excited, and I got the Fantasy Flight books for Dark Heresy 2 in the beta, I believe. They might even be out by now. And it was just a little too complicated, complex than I either A, remembered or my old brain wanted to deal with. So I went and thought about running it through the Savage Worlds campaign system, role-playing game system, which I've been very excited about. And we'll talk about that too. Now, what is it? Savage Worlds. It's a rule set to play a role-playing game. It does not use a D20. It does not use a a D100 system. It's and it's not a Serenity system. It's a what do they call? What's that? What's that called, Craig? The Serenity.
I have no idea. The Cortex system.
Yeah,
Cortex.
Serenity is the Cortex system.
Thank you. It's not a Cortex system.
Well, it's its own system.
It's its own system.
Its own flexible
and
system.
The goal of this book is it can be used in any setting. So from Wild West to Dungeons and Dragons-esque to future fantasy. What I like about it is it makes GMing a snap, at least rules-wise in planning. It lets me just take a yellow legal pad, script out my pacing, my plot points, and not have to worry about the rules behind that when creating the dungeon. I'm using dungeon in a generic term to mean the game that the people are going to play. How does it do that? I think Savage Worlds excels at using what they call wild cards, think main characters, and mooks. Can't even think of the official Savage World name for mook. Might be minion. And it just makes the use of the NPCs really easy. You can just script up a little bio and poof, you're off and running. So you don't have to have pages and pages and pages of NPCs fully statted out. You don't have to memorize and have memorized complex charts and tables for Savage World. They have rules for non-combat encounters that work really well. For example, there are rules on what are called dynamic encounters. What's that? That'd be things like defusing a bomb or stopping a chaos ritual in my setting. They have rules for chase scenes. They have easy rules for henchmen. And again, these are very simple, like the dynamic encounter rules on one page. They use more of a generic stat line for their weapon and their gear so that you can, again, use it in a variety of games. So in other words, like the main rule book might just have, armor. And it just gives you the stats of how armor would work with armor protection 1. If you're in a fantasy setting and you want to call that your leather armor, you can. If you want to use the next level up, you call it scale mail, you can. It's all very interchangeable without losing integrity in the gaming system. It's very easy for your player characters to make characters, and as a GM, it's very easy to keep track of what they're making. You have simple stats. You have agility, smart, spirit, strength, vigor. Those are all the stats you really ever need in a role-playing game. And this bears a little time to talk about. They use an interesting way that you operate off those stats. You have a way of points. You can give your stats for an agility. You have dice between a D4, a D6, a D8, a D10, and a D12. So your agility might be D4. You roll a D4. Your spirit might be a D8. You roll a D8. So that's how you have your stats be differentiated. They give you a handful of skills. The skills make sense. They're easy to pick. It's not complicated. When you're reading them, it's not complicated. I like how they handle magic. Russ, do you remember how they handle magic?
I don't, because I've only
Back
played...
from your Deadland games?
I didn't have any magic in Deadlands.
They call it arcane powers. That's the generic term to handle things like magic, miracles, psionics, superpowers, and weird science. What's cool about that is there's not separate rules for magic versus weird science. Those are just nuances. They've broken it out and said, look, we realize that if you're in a modern setting, you might not call your power magic. You might call it weird science, but it all works the same. You basically have PowerPoints. You pick the thing. You pick the quote spell, like the spell bolt is your spell. Hey, if you're in D&D land, you want to call it a magic missile? Awesome. If you're in the future, your bolt can be a mind ray. It doesn't matter. You get to create your own story behind it. Speaking of story, the rules allow you to create a good backstory when you're making your character by using these things called hindrances. This is one of my favorite things about Savage Worlds. It gives you a list of things that go against your character. He might be a gambler. He might be so honorable he has to defend the innocent. He might be blind in one eye. He might be deaf. He might be clumsy, whatever. When you pick those hindrances, it hurts your character, which creates lots of opportunity for role-playing. But when you do that, it gives you points to spend in other areas. Again, the gear we went over. Last few things. It has a unique initiative system by using a deck of cards. It has a way of, quote, boosting your rolls by having a wild die, and it allows you to have these things called bennies, which basically Ross Watson talks a lot about this in his games that he likes to play and create, where you want to feel like a superhero. You don't want to feel like you're just a dock worker and that's it. So these bennies allow you to say, whoa, wait a minute, I totally failed my roll to dodge. Let me use my benny and oh, look, my dodge comes off and I don't get killed. So that's kind of fun. Playing the game, like the actual combat system is very fun. I don't know if you guys want me to go through this. I won't bore you with the math of it, but what made me determine it is I was looking at how to do a combat. I was scripting it out on paper in Dark Heresy 2 using the D100 system.
Yep.
And there were so many terms of art in there that it made me want to have to flip through the rule book, So I'm just going to do a real brief example to illustrate and then show you how Savage Worlds is so much streamlined. So if you have a chain axe in the Dark Heresy 2 system, it has a rate of fire of 1/2. It has a damage of 1d10 plus 4 plus SB parentheses R with a pen of 2, tearing and unbalanced. So Russ, you have to know what that, just to attack with that.
Right.
Forget a bolt pistol, forget a chain sword, forget a power sword.
I mean, but to be fair, Rafe, all of those weapons are going to have those same stats.
What do you mean?
It's one stat line. It's just like just like a miniatures game. Once you know what those letters mean, it's the same for every weapon in the system.
Well,
so it's not like well, this is different, and then you use a spear. The numbers are going to change.
No, that's the thing. It was different. A spear might be rending.
Right, but that's my point is that it's more granular, yes. But once you learn the basics of the system, it's not. I think you're oversimplifying Savage Worlds, and you're overcomplicating Dark Heresy. But as far as Savage Worlds goes, go ahead.
That's what makes this so awesome, because I completely disagree.
Okay.
But you're right, but I disagree. I don't think I'm oversimplifying.
That clears it up for me.
Here's why you're right.
Let me
explain. Here's where Craig is right.
I'm afraid people are getting the wrong idea about Savage Worlds too, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's what I think was fun about our show. Craig is right in that, yes, once you learn those terms, they're learned. Everybody knows them. Everybody understands them. Not a problem. I'm also not knocking DH2 because some people really love that level of granularity. Those books are awesome. I love every single book that I own. It's just that for whatever reason at this time of my life, I was like, what does rending do again? What does tearing do again? What is unbound? I can't remember.
So you're saying that there's a lot of keywords in Dark Heresy you got to look up.
Thank you.
And you're saying there are not keywords in Savage Worlds? Because I thought there were some keywords.
There are, but I think there's less.
Okay.
I think that's where Craig disagrees.
All right.
No. I agree that there are far less. I also Dark Heresy 2 is a streamlined version from Dark Heresy 1, which is an odd thing. You and I have talked, and I wrote the bestiary for the original adventure for Dark Heresy 2, so I'm familiar with this. Like, I had to come up with all the characters and the monsters and everything for this big campaign book, and so I know the system. And I'm telling you that, I mean, maybe you don't believe me, but I'm telling you that it's a streamlined version, that there's a lot of stats that got combined or dropped to make it easier to run NPCs and a bunch of different things. But I think, and it could just be like I paint something in an hour that I used to take a day, or, maybe it's the time of life, like you just said. And there's no denying that Savage Worlds is easier and more streamlined than Dark Heresy by any rubric you'd care to use, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time,
it could be that my first iteration of Dark Heresy 1, I just went, it's a D100 system, and I'm not going to worry about tearing and unbalance. I'm just going to create a good game. I can't remember. I don't remember looking at the combat section and going, huh? Like, I don't remember. I don't want to go too far down this path, but I don't remember the degrees of success issue. Like, I don't know, Craig, if you mapped it out, man, there's this whole thing now, Russ, where there's like, you have to count the degrees of success. You got to compare it with the rate of fire of the weapon. Remember I said the chain axe was only rate of fire 1/2. Then the other guy, I haven't even gotten in how the other guy evades yet. Very granular. That's all I'm trying to get to.
Okay. And as far as Savage Worlds goes, I don't want people to think that if they open the Savage Worlds main rulebook up and there's a pistol and that's it. And you're like, oh, that
Correct.
could be a flintlock. It could be a six shooter. It could be a laser. Actually, there is a flintlock entry. There is a 6-shooter entry. There is a laser pistol entry.
Yeah, there's a Colt 45.
Right.
Entry.
I don't want people to think like, oh my God, it's going to be like the same lame thing no matter what setting I'm in.
I think what I heard from Raef was that though, if you read the stats for flintlock versus the stats for laser pistol, without having to understand a lot of terms of art, you'll understand the mechanical difference of the weapons in terms of which is more powerful.
Yes, you absolutely will.
So I think that was his point. Whereas if you read Dark Heresy, unless you go and learn the section of the book where all the keywords are, you won't really understand the difference between a chain axe and a chain sword.
Right.
And that leads me to my next point.
Yeah.
And Savage World says to do this. It's hard to stick to, I found, but if you stick to it, it works. Okay.
All right.
Here's what do I mean by that. Does Savage World have a line for bolt pistol? Nope. Las pistol? Nope. So I can go through Savage World and go, the Las pistol Savage World, that's not working the way I envision it. Ooh, you know what does? The Colt 45. That's my Las pistol. Like, they tell you to just do that. They're like, don't reinvent the wheel. Use the bestiaries. Use the stats we give you. Make it work in your world. Don't change too much. And I found that to be really liberating. But Craig's right. It's not just 3 entries. I mean, I think for firearms, there's probably like 20 entries.
Yeah, it's like a whole page.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
So
sometimes
it's designed to be
Savage World
flexible,
gets complex in its simplicity. So the rules are so simple, but in execution, like Craig and I were scratching our head during the last game and being like, does it mean this? I'm not really sure. So yeah, I'm not trying to say Savage World is the be-all, end-all as far as its awesomeness of rules, but I found it to be liberating when I was walking through the combat section of DH2 and I was like, ow, my brain.
Right. Well, to me, it definitely lends itself to storytelling.
Yeah.
Which is why I like it. As I don't like it as much as the Cortex system, to be honest, because I feel like I'm not rolling enough dice. So I'm sure the math works out and it's fine either way. But for some reason, the Cortex system, you add the skill die and the attribute die. So you'd have a die for your strength and you'd have a die for, wrestling, and you'd roll them together, and the combined dice are what you get. So there's a little more, chance to get better. But on Savage Worlds, you roll the skill die, and the only real worry that you have, or the only real interaction between like your strength die and your wrestling die, is that it costs you more points in character creation to get your wrestling up higher if your strength die is lower. So yes, it's all interaction. It's very easy. Rafe's absolutely right. You could create a character literally in 10 minutes.
Yeah. 10, 15 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
A full character too.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's really all I had as far as my blurb on that. And, I guess, Craig, do you want to talk about how the settings books work? Because that segues into Accursed.
Well, yeah, but I also want to, how is your Savage Worlds Dark? I mean, I guess you should call it 40K Savage Worlds, because Dark Heresy is an actual, not for legal terms, just for confusion terms. Because it's, anyway, how's it going? Like, cause I hear good things.
It's going well. I'm not going to lie. It feels weird to not be using the Fantasy Flight game system that I remember and loved with DH1, which ironically Ross was a big part of. Yeah. And maybe it's cause I dumbed it down or my brain can handle it back then, but no, Savage World is handling it just fine. We're having a blast. And it's working just fine, especially the non-combat oriented things. Like, we did a chase scene, which we didn't pull off as well in Accursed. It has nothing to do with Accursed. It just has to do with the way we got involved in the encounter. But we had a chase scene in Dark Heresy that they just absolutely loved. That's because they didn't want to kill the guy. They wanted to get information, so they weren't trying to kill him. So they were like jumping over carts and leaping over buildings and doing rolls around corners. And then the wild card, the enemy he'd like win the chase encounter. And so I'd be like, oh, he gets ahead and he turns the corner and you lose sight of him. And, they just were like, it was awesome. And then we had another scene, which again was it did not evolve or devolve into a combat scene. And it was one of those, disable the, trap kind of scenes. It was like a five turn event. And that came out really good. So it was really fun to see Savage World do that, and the guys all got into their characters, and like Dave's playing an arcane character, and so instead of bolts, he calls them like the Emperor's Wrath, and then he shoots his bolt, but he doesn't call it that, so they're getting into their characters, and that's always fun, and they're getting involved in the world. And the best part, Craig, is like you were saying, you don't have the time to GM. The first session I put like 2-3 hours in, and that was the startup session, and that wasn't the most fun. The second session, I think I maybe put, like maybe thinking about it, maybe 2 hours, but actually pen to paper was maybe a half hour.
Cool.
And I was able to create everything else, not on the fly. I wasn't making it up. I had a plan, but again, I was able to go, okay, yeah, I'm going to use these soldiers that are on page 64 of the Cole rulebook. Those will be my cultists, and the lead cultist will be, oh look, here's a mobster on the back of the book, page 86. Perfect.
You eat those cultists, they're worth 500 calories.
Right.
Oh,
nice.
Velociraptor cannibalism inside
All right,
joke.
so I want to know about Accursed. So
okay, so the setting. Okay, so basically, what you've got is the core rulebook is a framework upon which you can hang almost any type of story, like Raef said.
Right.
And then you have these setting books, and the setting books can be almost anything, and there are dozens and dozens of setting books. And there's sci-fi setting books, and there's fantasy setting books, and there's modern fantasy, modern setting books. There's all kinds of different setting books.
Yep.
Accursed by a friend of the show, Ross Watson, and Melior Villa, and the guys at Melior Villa, which are all friends of Ross Watson, is a setting book for Savage World. And so what it does is it gives you a lot of background, and then it gives you a couple things to plug in there that will sort of customize, if you will, like character creation and stuff like that for Accursed.
you get more skills, more hindrances, more edges.
Yeah. Sometimes you do. Sometimes the settings have a lot more skills that are, like maybe like computer hacking might be in there, and it's not in the core rulebook or something like that.
Yep.
Published in 2013, barely, by Melior Villa. Of course, it was a big successful Kickstarter. Friend of the show, Ross Watson, was lead developer, and his friend, Jason Marker, is the lead writer. And a cool little extra in the front of the book is an introductory short story that sort of sets the tone for the whole book, which is by Andy Chambers.
By none other than Andy Chambers.
Yeah. So, quality of the book, it's 149 pages, so it's not a big book. It's a little thin. They did, their whole concept was like print to play, or actually ebook format.
Right.
They wanted, that's kind of what their push was. But
that's how I got it.
Yeah, you can get the book. I don't like that. I don't have a device that can really handle that well. So I wouldn't want one anyway. I like a book like I can handle. And so that's what she said. They did send us a copy of the book, of the rule, a hardcover. It's exact whatever. 149 full color pages. It's very cool quality paper. It's almost like a gritty, almost like a papyrus, not papyrus, but what is it? What is it?
Paper?
And what kind of paper? Parchment, like a parchment. Thanks, both of you, for your help. Anyway,
oh my God.
It's all very cool original art.
That was
very,
awesome.
very cool stuff like that. It has a very elaborate table of contents, but no index.
All right.
So its value as an in-game reference is limited, because you're flipping around and find a lot of stuff. Inside, you've got the land of Morden, which is the world that this takes place in. It's a whole new world. There are hints in there that like maybe there's going to be even more stuff. You've got multiple nations that are all kind of like fantasy-ish, and they're very themey. You've got a Scotland, you've got an Israel, which I found very intriguing. You have an Egypt, like an ancient Egypt. You've got a Western Europe. You've got a Russia. You've got a Northern or Eastern Europe kind of feel. and they each have their own sort of themey kind of feel to them. It's a combination of fantasy and Renaissance with limited black powder weapons, and it kind of felt to me, Rafe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of felt to me like Warhammer Fantasy Empire.
Yes.
Because it's like,
oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's broken down into different cultures that are all in one region, and they all use swords, and armor and everything. But there's also kind of wacky, almost but not quite steampunky level black powder weapons.
And then you got all the monsters, which is also Warhammer, fantasy stuff.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And so that's the land. The main thing, of course, is the Accursed, and the whole point is that in this game you are playing humans. That have the whole idea is that you've got this world, and then it was invaded by these witches that came from far, far away, and there's 13 of them in the Grand Coven, and not all 13 are covered in the book, so there's like leeway for you to create your own, which is cool, or for them to come up with more supplements and things like that. But the key is that each one of these witches created their own army out of humans and mutated or magically changed them into different types of monsters, and they were the armies that came and invaded and shattered humanity, and all of the human defenders were kind of disappeared or wiped out in these big major battles, and now you're living in the aftermath. And in that final battle, a lot of the witches went away. One of the witches may have died. You don't know. So it's kind of like this pause for a deep breath after this big giant war, and you are playing one of these humans that's been twisted into a monster, but without the witch's direct influence on you, you are now trying to undo the damage that you've done. You're trying to make up for the evil things that you did. You're trying to, in some instances, regain your humanity. In other instances, you're not interested in regaining your humanity. You're more interested in gaining revenge on the witches or trying to undo the witch's evil and things like that. And so these are the witch marked. These are the people that have been twisted into monsters, and these are your player characters for Accursed. And your main options are Dhampir, which is like a half vampire, golems, which are like weird, like either a clay guy or a metal guy.
Monster. Right.
What's that?
Frankenstein's monster, basically.
Like Frankenstein's monster. Yep. Mongrels, which are kind of odd to me, which are basically like living creatures that have been experimented on and had different parts grafted onto their bodies, and so they have these abilities like edges. The edges, I don't think Rafe talked about edges. You've got when you're doing character creation, you have
skills.
What are they? What are
edges?
The negatives called?
Oh, hindrances.
Hindrances
and edges,
then the hindrances are negatives and the edges are positives.
Right.
And the way that the mongrels work, the edges are actually reflective of animal parts that you have grafted onto your body. So you might have like speedy as your edge, which normally means you're just fast. But because you're a mongrel, it means that they've like put horse legs on your body.
And they're like cheetah legs or something.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. You have mummies, Ophidians, which are like snake people. You've got revenants, which are basically undead. Shades, basically ghosts, and Vargr, which are basically werewolves. And so you've got all those. Then you've got setting rules, and this is Russ, where I was talking about what where it comes in, where it kind of like fine tunes the basic rule set. So it's got setting rules that are specific to Accursed, and then it has skills. It doesn't actually have new skills. What it does is it combines skills.
Okay.
So climbing and lockpicking are all in one. Like, instead of having to spend points on a bunch of different things, you spend points on subterfuge, and it covers a bunch of those things.
Yeah, one thing in Savage Worlds, there's not really classes. There's just all the skills.
Exactly.
But then,
that's a great point.
What they do
so
though is
customize.
But they link skills together. So like in Deadlands, for example, if you want to be a ranger, you got to take all these prerequisites to get it. So it kind of like forces you into a pattern for the really complicated characters types.
Right. Yeah. But you can
do they do that in Accursed a little bit or no?
Well, no, because the thing with Accursed is you're not. The thing about Deadlands is you're all human.
Right, sure. Yeah.
The thing in Accursed is you're choosing basically a witch marked package.
Right.
And that's what
that's why they're all combined. So I see. So I pick
Exactly.
I pick the golem package, I get a certain set of skills that are locked in.
There you go, Russ.
Got it.
Exactly. It does some things for your character creation. It opens up some edges and hindrances for you and things like that.
The analogy would be it's like picking a race.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It does have some new hindrances, which are cool. It does have some new edges.
So when
which
I get
are cool.
that package, can I then still have points to buy more stuff to make my
You
golem
absolutely
unique?
do. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't actually. It doesn't give you specific skills, except in some instances. Like for instance, the one that I'm most familiar with, I did a Dampier. So when you choose that, you automatically get +2 comeliness because vampires are cool looking. You automatically get everything starts at a D4, all of your attributes.
Yep.
Your agility as a Dampier starts at a D6 for free. So that's like a one boost bonus for free. And you got a notice skill. You start with the notice skill at D6 for free instead of having to buy it initially right off. And then you've still got all your points. So I was a sword wielding, gun wielding half vampire.
Do your accent.
Yeah, I was. My name was Victor the Vampire.
Yes.
And I was going to steal the moon. No. Yes, Russ, you're still totally creating your character. I could have been a Dampier magic user. I could have been a Dampier thief. You know, you've got all kinds of leeway. You're choosing your edges. You're choosing your hindrances.
That's really cool.
So there's a lot of leeway to do stuff like that. It's really, really cool.
And I should say too, if people are wondering, like, Raef, if you just said the Savage World book works in any setting, why are these setting books? Well, the way I think of it is that, like when Craig said, like, well, the core rule book has, flintlock pistol, and then it has a Colt 45, and then it has a las pistol. It's trying to cover all of them. Well, the setting books might narrow down. So if you're playing Deadlands, well, now your weapons in your settings books, there's going to be 15 of the different type of weapons that were in the Wild West.
Right.
So that's what this is the setting books narrowing it down to this horror genre as Craig just described it.
Right. So it also fine-tunes magic. It kind of takes away all of those magic skill sets in the core rule book and replaces them with alchemy and an accursed specific witchcraft skill. There's new tools and gear and weapons, like you just said. And then it's got a whole section on the witch marks and how they work. And because in a campaign situation, your character is constantly either working with its witch mark and basically accepting it and learning how to use it, or it's denying its witch mark and trying to gain its humanity. So there's a whole kind of meta game going on there where you're trying to, and as you go away from your witch mark, you're losing the strengths, but you're also losing the vulnerabilities of, like, for instance, as a Dampier, you're really vulnerable to wooden weapons like stakes and stuff like that. And as you become more human, if that's the direction you want to go, you're going to lose a lot of your cool bonuses, but you're also going to lose that vulnerability to wood that does extra points of damage and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wood bad.
Wood is bad. Fire! If you're a golem. But anyway. And then there's a whole section on the witches, which is very cool. It goes into the background story and their magic type and their leadership style. You've got Baba Yaga. Who doesn't love Baba Yaga with her little hut with chicken legs?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, she created the Vargir. They're each tied to a specific witch mark. The Blood Witch, of course, is the Dampier. She's like a vampire countess. The Chimera is this creepy woman who, like, grafts animals to her own body.
Yeah.
And so she does it to other people also. So she's with the mongrels. Yeah. The Crone is the classic witch, and she creates puppets. So her things are the golems. The Dark Queen is kind of like she's like this, I don't even know, but she's with the shades. She's super into stealth, stuff like that. The Djinn is really neat because she's kind of like a genie. And she's the one who disappeared. Nobody knows if she's dead or not. But she's the chick with the mummies. That you've got the Gorgon that has Ophidians. You've got the Morrigan who does the Revenants.
Can you be Medusa as a Gorgon?
The Gorgon is Medusa.
Nice. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So you can't be her. She's the main bad guy.
Thing is,
that area.
The trick to playing Medusa is just don't look in a mirror. Just saying.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
That's
watch
true.
out for
If
that.
you are an Ophidian, you can, if you embrace your witch mark, you can become more and more snake-like.
Oh, cool.
And then the book finishes up with, which I think is very, very cool, Adventures in Morden is the last chapter, and it's all about how to put together, like, what are the hooks, they're
Right.
called. Like, why would these monsters all be fighting together? Who are they? And there's a whole, the book is full of history and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool. There's all kinds of, each section about the countries has like the cool places in the country, cool NPCs you might meet, monsters that are known to be there, and like social organizations that you'd have to deal with. So it's very, very cool as a campaign setting.
So what do you think about now having played such a nice long session in the Accursed universe, and what do you think about the Accursed supplement itself?
I think it's really cool if you're into monsters and stuff like that. If you like monsters and those movie monsters, the universal monsters, if you will, I think it's a very cool way to do that because it's not just I'm a monster and I'm playing in a setting.
Yep.
It's I'm a monster. I'm in this setting. This is why I'm in here. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm embracing or denying the monstrous nature of my twisted form. I think it's very, very, very cool. It's tricky because there's a lot of background here, and you can't. It's not like if you've been playing 40K for 30 years, and you want to role play in the 40K universe. Bing, you're done. Right. Here you have to spend a lot of time learning about all these different countries and these different witch marks and these different witches and which one's here and which one's there and who's alive and who's dead, because you really want to infuse it with all of the work and the time and the effort that's gone into the book. You want to.
What sounds neat to me is every once in a while, you get the itch to sort of like, how you read a book, like I was just talking about how I was enjoying reading the Iron Kingdoms books, right? But that's a setting I know.
Right.
So I'm going into that and hoping to live in the world I already kind of know about.
Yeah.
But there's also the thing when you watch a show in a totally new setting, like we've been talking about how we really enjoy Being Human, right? And part of the fun is Being Human is discovering the universe as it slowly unfolds. So I think a curse sounds like a cool thing because it's a setting that a lot of us probably don't play in RPGs often.
Right.
So if your GM got this book and just loved that kind of a setting, kind of slowly showed you the world through the playing of the game, it could be really a neat experience because you're kind of learning and diving into this universe without really in a place you don't know well.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say this definitely rewards you for putting the time and effort into it. Mm-hmm. You need to have players that are going to put some time and effort into their character creation. They're going to read the book. They're going to know about their own background. So you need a lot of buy-in. This is not something you're just going to throw together like an afternoon one-off hack and slash session. It's something that I guess you could actually, if that's what you want to do with monsters, then you could totally do it. But to really sink your teeth into the Accursed book, I think takes an investment in time and effort. But I think it's very cool and well worth it.
Unless that's everything Craig and Russ said, unless that's your genre. Like if you're a Cthulhu guy and a vampire guy, you might be able to pick this book up and start running.
Well, there's no Cthulhu.
No, I'm saying
you can't give them the wrong idea.
Well, whatever.
You're saying if someone likes monster stuff, then they'll be all over this and maybe
right. Like I find making characters in Savage World is like some of the most fun. Like I created my character and I kind of really got into him, but I don't know the monster horror genre very well at all.
Right.
I don't have a lot of backstory in it, and but I was thinking, like, I wonder if, like, all those people that do the Cthulhu, I don't know Cthulhu, I don't do the vampire masquerade things, it's just not my thing. And I wonder if those guys and gals that are in that world, if they're like, well, geez, I picked this up and ran with it,
Right. And I think there's the monsters most of the monsters are familiar enough, and you can tell that they've done a lot of work making them the monsters that we know and love. Right. Which I guess does translate, and you could have like a one-off hack and slash and have a lot of fun if you just wanted to, have like Frankenstein's monsters and werewolves and stuff like that. But I think what I'm trying to say is that they've created a world in which these monsters make sense.
Yeah.
And to fully enjoy and delve into that world takes an investment.
That's cool. It sounds like there's a lot to dive into, though, which is neat.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah, I mean, there's some. I could nitpick a little bit about the organization of the book. It's kind of there's a lot of flipping back and forth because you've got your witch mark and you've got your character creation, but then you don't really know what witch you're like supposed to be serving. So you're trying to do your background, so you're flipping back and forth, and there's no real easy cross referencing thing to way to cross reference the two things together. And there's like a couple things where you really need this piece of information, but it's located in another place. But for the most part, very well put together. You can tell Ross Watson is in his glory. He knows what he's doing. He's an old hand at role playing games and organizing the books and writing up the cool stuff, along with his friend Jason and so yeah, so I think it's a really cool setting for a very cool game system.
Nice. Rafe, do you concur?
Yeah, again, it's not a genre that I know very well, but I had really fun. I made a mummy character, and
you really need to download the Lost Chapter and listen to Rafe's Mummy.
Yes, yes, and my backstory.
Yes, his
fun.
backstory is fascinating.
Yeah, I had fun and there
was a lot of
what it reminded me of is I just didn't know the world that well, and I don't mean Ross's world. I mean the whole universal picture thing, and it reminded me of Russ. You may get into this, I'm not sure. Where there's one of those Savage World settings is called Space 1889, and it shows like British people and like flying. Right. Ships of the Main, but they fly in space.
Jules Verne,
another world I don't know very well.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So it sounds like if you're into the monster genre or always wanted to be in the monster genre or just looking for a setting where you could really lead your characters in a whole new world that maybe they've never experienced, this Accursed is definitely something to take a look at.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Very cool. And, of course, it sits right on top of the Savage World package. If you're already familiar with Savage World or if you're looking for an RPG that's got a nice easy to jump into rule set that can be set just about anywhere, this would be a fun place to start.
Yeah, and if you do want to start there, what you want to the publishing group's Pinnacle Entertainment Group, and you want to just get what's called the Savage World's Core Rulebook.
Right. Yeah. That's got all the basics. Now,
so that's what you need. So it's not like 12 of them. You get that core rulebook, and then you pick the supplement you want, if any.
So we got a couple minutes left, and I wanted to surprise you guys with a brief on-air challenge.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So just to show the flexibility and the kind of different settings you can play. So basically, once you learn the Savage World rules...
I think we've done this before, and I don't think I did well.
You can go anywhere and do anything. And this is some of the fun. So I thought... I gathered together, I went across and looked through several different pre-generated characters from different Savage World settings. And I thought it'd be kind of fun. And you listeners can play along at home and see if you can beat either Rafe or Craig in figuring out which setting the character I'm about to describe is from.
Do we have multiple choice?
So
there's a lot of settings.
I'm going to slowly describe elements of the character. I'm going to reveal more and more things that I think will make it easier. So the earlier ones are going to be harder. The earlier hints are going to be harder. So see who can guess. You can have multiple guesses. Who will guess the proper setting for this character first? Are you guys ready for the first character?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, his name is Edward von Helgen.
Okay.
Any guesses? Oh, okay, here we go. Ready? First of all, skills. Knowledge of Masakwani, D6. Fighting D6, shooting D6, boating D6, knowledge of tactics D8. He's noticed D6, persuasion D6, and swimming D6. Does that help at all, or too general still?
Pirates of the Spanish Main.
Ooh, I don't know. That's not a setting, but that's a close guess. Next up.
50 Fathoms.
Oh, yes, very good. 50 Fathoms is correct. My favorite is this character's, quote, stand by to be boarded, and if you cooperate in a civil manner, I promise to have you all underway again by supper time. He's the gentleman pirate, Edward von Helgen from 50 Fathoms. Very good.
Okay.
Very good, Craig, but you got a hint from Rafe. Nice setup. All right, ready? Here we go. Let's see. This one is Cecilia James. Attributes, agility D6, smarts D8, spirit D8, strength D4, and vigor D6.
I like this game.
All right, here we go. Her skills: fighting D6, guts D4, investigation
Guts,
D4,
that's old school.
lockpicking D4, notice D6, persuasion D8, shooting D6, stealth D6, streetwise D8, and taunt D8. Any help so far?
No.
How about some hindrances? She's curious, stubborn, and her vow is bring Ethan's killers to justice.
Ethan's killer.
Her edges are actress, attractive, and dirty fighter.
Is it Ripper?
No. Good guess, though, but no. The languages: Arabic, English, French, German, Italian, and Korean.
Okay.
She enjoys a dagger, a revolver.
She enjoys.
And let's see. She also carries false traveling papers and lockpicks that look like hairpins. Okay, now I'm going to get into her background here. Give you more. This is more fluff here. She's an ex-government agent, more than just a pretty face. Agent Cecilia James is the best the British Secret Service has to offer. That is, until the Brotherhood of Luxor murdered her. Was that? Yes,
Space
it is.
1889?
Space 1889.
Oh, is it really?
Raef Granger nails it. Nails it there. Nicely done, sir.
Nicely done.
All right. All right, ready? Here comes another one. This is a little tricky, so here we go. Name Buck Savage. All right, ready? Here we go. Attributes. So attributes are kind of coarse. I'll skip the attributes. I don't say much. Skills: climbing D6, fighting D8, guts D6, intimidation D6, notice D6, shooting D8, stealth D6, survival D6, and swimming D4. Hindrances: he's heroic, mean, and stubborn. Edges are brawny, combat reflexes, and rock and roll.
Weird Wars.
What's that?
Weird Wars.
Good guess, but no. Gear, machete, Tommy gun, Colt, and a... he's got 2 spare clips for the Colt and 2 spare round drums for the Tommy gun. His languages include English,
gangster time.
English, Arabic, and Spanish. Again, this might be a little bit of a tricky one here. He's got his... Here's a little backstory here. Buck's father was a former boxer who legally changed his name to Savage for his career. He wanted a better life for his son, though, and forced him to go to school in New York City. Buck went along just enough to get involved in a few anthropologic digs, but soon became obvious that finding treasure and fighting off competitors was more suited to Buck's nature. Now, Buck travels the world searching for lost treasures and giving them to museums of the world. In exchange for small finder's fee, of course, he deeply loves his Virginia Dare, but his surly nature keeps him ruining any chances he might have to make her partnership.
I know it.
What do you think?
Savage World setting, and the character name is Illinois Smith.
Close. It's Buck Savage, but it is the core game, and it's in the Pulp Heroes section. So it's core Pulp Heroes.
Oh, that's lame.
See, that's the kind of thing you can do. That was okay. That was a cheat. Okay, this next one is from one of the expansions. Okay, ready? One of the other settings. Here we go. Ready? Name Alabaster Warren. All right.
Yep.
Skills: fighting, shooting D6, guts D6, intimidation, investigation, notice, streetwise, and taunt. Languages include English, Latin, Greek, German, and criminal cant. Hindrances include bad eyes and orders from Scotland Yard. I love that one. Edges: he's investigator and strong-willed. Gear includes a $125 English pounds. He's got a Derringer, pocket watch, notepad, fountain pen engraved.
Is this 1889 again?
No.
Is this Rippers?
It is Rippers, yes. Craig, describe the Ripper setting for everybody so they know what it is.
The Ripper setting it actually is similar to Accursed a little bit. It's a steampunky Victorian setting, I believe. But the problem is that you're basically working with the Lodge, which is this is all, I know very little about it. I've just glanced through it today when I was doing some other stuff. And it's basically the Lodge, monsters are real, but they're the bad guys as usual. They're not the good guys. And this group, this organization in England called the Lodge hunts them down.
Right.
And you have to choose whether or not you're going to sort of embrace this technology, this Ripper technology that will change you and mutate you over time, but gives you these abilities that you can take on the monsters directly, or are you going to stick with your humanity, but you have to find other ways to overcome the massive advantages the monsters have? So it's very much a monster hunting.
Right.
Is Jack the Ripper
background.
somehow involved?
No.
No, not really.
Not really, but it's that era, sort of, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that character a lot. So one more before we got to go here. So the last one, name Sam Johnson.
Uh-huh.
Skills, Faith D8, Fighting D4, Healing D4, Guts D6, Notice D4, Persuasion D6, Repair D6, Shooting D6, Charisma 0. Pace 5, Parry 4, and Toughness 5. Hindrances include Obese, Vow to protect the innocents from evil, and Wanted. Major reward for this guy, $2,000. Paid by Hellstrom Industries. Edges, Arcane Background Miracles, and Conviction. Gear, here we go, ready? Gatling Shotgun, Box of Shells, Axe Handle, Priest Robes.
Deadlands?
Yes, Deadlands. Very good. Nicely done, sir.
Yeah.
So there you have it. So there's the few samples of the wide and wacky areas of interest you can play.
Well, not only that, but the cool thing about what you just did, Russ, is it lets people see how the skills work and the
Right.
different hindrances and edges.
Exactly, and how you can flavor it out. And these all had like really cool little paragraphs and stuff. And you can really get into creating a character with some very simple. What's great is once you learn these rules, you can all of a sudden just the same group of guys and gals just switch off where you're playing next week, and there's no more, oh God, I got to learn a whole new RPG.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's what
you've
makes
got
it really wonderful.
And this is what Raef was talking about, where you've got these characters in the book already, and you don't have to do any work. Like these guys could be in any setting. You just change the flavor of what they're carrying, and you're good to go. I mean, that's what Dave actually did that in his session that we recorded for the Lost Chapter, in that he had the professional monster hunter was a generic character from the core rulebook that he was using as an NPC.
There you go.
So it's a very cool system.
So there you have it. So there's our update on Savage Worlds and Accursed in particular.
Accursed. I'm ashamed.
You're listening to the D6 generation. More to gain.
Hey guys, and now it's time for us to talk about Cool Mini or Not.
Ooh, I like the new intro. Very fancy pants of you, sir.
Well, hey, what are we going to do?
Cool Mini or Not's been around a long time. They got a fantastic website, and I don't know, for those of you who don't know, it's basically started out as a site where you could go vote on a miniature picture of a painted bottle.
And that's all it was. It was a way to
cool or
waste
not.
time at lunch.
Right. Is this cool or not? And this site has grown up to be quite the, hub, if you will, of both fantastic miniature painting people, but also amazing gaming experiences and folks who help produce fantastic games. Some of the biggest games on Kickstarter ever have come out of the folks at Cool Mini or Not.
That's right. In fact, I think the last time somebody looked at it, the 2 or 3 of the top 5 were all Cool Mini or Not.
Little games you might have heard of like Zombicide or Sedition Wars or Rivet Wars. Got my Rivet Wars, played it the other day. I played it again this weekend, and it's great. Every time, here's the story. Don't be this guy, okay? Every time I pull out one of my Cool Mini or Not Kickstarter games and play it, the first thing the person sits down and plays it with is, man, I thought about backing that, and I was like, I don't know, and now I wish I had. It's the same story every time. Their games are fantastic. The models are cool. Other thing Cool Mini or Not started to do with their box games, which I really, really love, when Super Dungeon Explorer first came out, by the way, it was, you had to assemble all the models.
Yeah.
Now when you get on store shelves, it's all pre-assembled, which is fantastic. Same thing with Rivet Wars. It comes all pre-assembled. Wave 2 also. Zombicide, everything's pre-assembled. There's some expansions. Chaos Ball, a game that is shipping any minute now. The Kickstarter ended last year.
Now.
Craig and I both backed it. Both pretty much got.
Excited.
Yeah,
I
we
got
cannot
everything.
Wait.
Plus.
I know. But how can you not? How can you not?
You got 18 teams, Russ. I got 18 teams on the way.
Teams. Talk about Army. 18 teams. That's just silly.
That's
but it's
just
awesome.
Craziness.
It is. Also, the game I just backed now, this Kickstarter just ended, Arcadia Quest.
Oh, yeah, that looked cool.
Which looks fantastic. It's basically like you build your own party. So it's kind of like, instead of Super Dungeon Explorer, where you have to, one guy's the overlord and the rest of the people are, party kind of like Descent, you just fight with your dungeon. This game is each player controls a small party that you sort of draft of heroes. And then those heroes go into the city and basically loot and fight monsters and try to do the best of all the heroes and complete the most challenges and kind of win. So it's kind of like, kind of a little like Tomb, but very different. And instead of little cardboard guys, you got, of course, the amazing, cool, mini or not models that everybody knows and loves, and that cool.
Wait a minute.
What? Yes.
It looks like one of the things they ended up doing was they took all the bad guys from Super Dungeon Explorer, and you can have them as heroes in this game. Is that true?
There's all kinds of crossovers. It's crazy cool stuff.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's awesome. Yep. So great stuff. Of course, a bunch of all new miniatures in there as well. There's all kinds of crossover. Of course, they snuck in a Cthulhu guy at the end there, Craig. His name is Chulu.
They always do.
Chulu. Yeah, he's in there. So fantastic. Just great stuff. You really would do yourself a favor to check out Cool Mini or Not. Keep an eye on what they're doing, and just it would be great if there's an auto follow in Kickstarter just for anything called Cool Mini or Not. But the way you do that, of course, is just on Twitter. Just check them out, follow them on Twitter, find out what these are going on, because if they're producing a game, you want to at least know what it is to be sure you don't want it, because chances are you probably do. Yeah. Check them all out at coolminiornot.com. Woo!
This edition of Jever Notice is brought to you by Cranky Lawyer. 9 out of 10 Cranky Lawyers agree. Supporting the D6G via Patreon is worth every penny. Thanks, Cranky. Did you ever notice how strange disappointment can be? How sometimes it's really easy to be disappointed, and other times it's really, really hard, and you're just willing to give things the benefit of the doubt. Things have been very strange for me lately, and I'm not going to talk about most of them, but I'm going to share with you a few of the moments that have really been disappointing to me, because I'm afraid it may just be me. And this whole thought process sort of coagulated, if you will, allow me a gross and disgusting verb, today at a concert for my son's, preschool. And it was, a bunch of different instruments, and it was for kids. It was for little kids. And there was a choral, like a bell concert sort of thing. And there was a saxophone and an oboe and a flute and a piano and a guitar and a violin and a drum set. And I think that might have been it. And it was very neat, and all of the people were very talented. And the reason that this sort of melded with me in my head is because I had the exact same thoughts at the, holiday concert, this year with our choral group at school. And that thought was, like, you've got a room full of little kids in this instance, or high school students in the other instance, and you are presenting them with an artistic thing, and with an event or an experience. And halfway through it, I'm always thinking, who chose this stuff? Who chose to do entire pieces of classical music for a room full of 3-year-olds? I mean, my son is extremely well behaved. The kids in front of me were literally crawling underneath the benches, at one point. But my son was like, Dada, what are we doing? And I couldn't respond in any positive way, because seriously, I was just going, I don't know. There were like some fun parts. There was one particular fun part where they had all the kids, join in, and they had a little girl up there who was like going through the hand motions that everybody was supposed to do. But for the most part, it was literally these people who were, again, very talented and were donating their time. And I don't want to undersell any of the positive elements of this. But for the audience, it was like, you need to tone down your own artistic, advancement, or not advancement, but your own artistic fulfillment, and go for your target audience. And the same thing applied with the chorus, where they were doing classical Christmas songs, but they were doing arrangements that were clearly, if you'll forgive the term, masturbatory, because there's no reason to blow, especially for a general high school audience that is not very musically sophisticated to just blow the arrangement, the classical arrangement completely out of the water. And you see it a lot. Most of you will recognize what I'm talking about when I say when at big sporting events, when you have big stars singing the Star Spangled Banner or whatever your national anthem might be. And they if it's supposed to go, and they go, I mean, really, seriously, you are losing most of your audience. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for a few other people that to whom this is either old hat or not interesting, and you are not serving well your target audience. And that, if just in case you're wondering where I'm going with, this whole thing gamer-wise, came right back around and I went, oh my gosh, I think this is what people are talking about when they're talking about expectations and games. And that's how huge it is and how it ties in with disappointment. If you're expecting a light, fun game night and you're expecting just to sort of let your hair down if you're lucky enough to have any and just enjoy a night where you're not either on, quote unquote, or you're on your best behavior or, in meeting people mode or in super competitive mode. If you're just I just want to have fun, let down all my days, frustrations and just have a good time. And then you end up in this super hyper competitive and you know people, I know you do, you may even be one of them, super competitive no matter what they do. And maybe when you've got your expectations all day long or just have a fun game and you see one of those guys and they could be very good friends of yours, but when you're looking for just a fun, relaxing game and there's one of those guys at the table and it's not going to be a fun and relaxing game, you get disappointed. And it's okay to get disappointed, I think. Okay. Or let's say, and this is an interesting thing to me because it's happened several times in a row now and I've been guilty of it. I know. And I don't know what there is, how you get around it or if there is a way around it. And I'm talking about limited table space at a game store, like a really nice game store, of course, like Myriad Games. Very limited table space, maybe. And so people save tables so that they can play games there I want to make sure there's a game table there for me. So I'm calling ahead and I'm having them reserve a table for me. And that's totally legit. And it's actually in the rules that they have for the game space. And I get it. And I've done it before. It just gets frustrating to me and disappointing when I walk in and there's all kinds of tables full and there's one table that would be really good for what I want to do. And it's been reserved and it's not being used. And like I've said, I've done it before and I have friends that do it and these are friends that I respect and admire. And so it's not I'm not saying people who do it are bad. I'm just saying it's just frustrating and disappointing. And then there is one thing that I don't get and that's you're playing a game and you've got another table reserved for later on. That I don't get. And I get it on an intellectual level. There's six people playing a board game. Later on, you want to play a miniatures game. But intellectually, I understand it, but viscerally, I don't. And I don't think I ever will. That I haven't done. But again, it's been done by people that I respect and admire as gamers and as people. So it just ties in with the whole disappointment and the frustration thing. And to wrap up the disappointment element is, there's a lot of stuff going on right now and a lot of it is disappointing and a lot of it's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but, so Russ, I blame Russ and our friend Christian, who got me just accidentally. He had no idea he was doing it, but got me intrigued by Crossmaster Arena. And so I'm into it now, and I admit it. And I bought the game at Myriad, and I think I really enjoy it, and it's fun. And my son is super intrigued because of the cartoony elements and everything. But of course you can't get any of the cool bling for it unless you're in the Kickstarter. And so I went online and I'm like, I spent way more money than I should on a lot of, and I got really cool dice and I got really cool big extra large cards for my son and I got cardboard terrain, which I don't know why I did that because that's another statement for another time. But, so I'm on Kickstarter. I mean, I'm on eBay and I'm just looking at all this stuff over and over and over again. And this week there was the entire contents of the $500 Kickstarter package was on eBay in one auction. and I wanted it, and I couldn't really justify the money. But I wanted it so much, and I was bidding on it, and I was right in there with the best of them, right up to, the whole thing cost $500 when it was on the Kickstarter, and I didn't go that high, but I went pretty darn high, and I got sniped. And literally, while I got sniped, I was staring at the screen going, please snipe me, because I was winning right up to the last, literally beyond the last minute, within 60 seconds of the end, I was winning. And I suddenly had like buyer's remorse, and I was like, oh my God, please snipe me. 20 seconds to go, I got sniped by $5. So it was $5 over. And immediately, as soon as I saw that number flicked, I realized I'd made a mistake. And I realized that I really wanted that, and I wasn't going to be able to get it. And it has been plaguing me ever since. The biggest disappointment in a long, long time as far as gaming stuff goes. And ever since then, I've just gone through my head like, oh, what I could have done with all that stuff. And oh, it would have been a totally different game. And I would have had the trees, and I would have had the cool little character tokens. I can't even describe it. I have since gone all out. I've bought a bunch of stuff. I'm going to make a 3D board, but I'm not going to have the 3D terrain, and I'm not going to have the little guy on this. And so I'm so disappointed. So now I've got clay. I'm going to try to sculpt it. I'm going to try to make the best of the situation. But seriously, like, why am I so disappointed? It's just a game. That's what I want to tell myself. And that's what makes me wonder, is it me? Is it my fault that all this disappointment has happened? And I just don't know. I don't know. So I know this is bounced all over the place, but the key here is, I don't know. I need to control my disappointment better. That's what I think. I think my life will be happier if I can just calm down a little bit and take it with the flow. Go with the flow. I don't even know. See, I'm even losing my trite little statements have gone by the wayside. So anyway, I guess that's all I've got to say about that. So thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.